Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of what if Deku was left behind and made a secret promise? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. People are not born equal. I learned this the hard way. In this world, about 80% of the planet population have some sort of unique ability, a quirk, as people call it, a power that differentiates a person from another one. Some can breathe fire, others can fly. There are so many different types of quirks that is virtually impossible to name every single one. But there are some exceptions. His name is Izuku Midoriya, a boy with green hair, green eyes, and freckled cheeks. He is part of the 20% that don't have a special power. He's quirkless. He carried this hard truth since he was 5 years old, when he and his mother went to the doctor to find out if he would develop a power or not, and, thanks to an extra joint on his pinky finger, he'll never have one. This changed everything in his life. Before he had friends, he was happy. He had a dream. His entire life he wished to become a hero, a person that put its life on the line to protect others. He wanted to be like his idol. He wanted to be like All Might, the #1 hero. But how can a normal person stop someone with a quirk? After that visit to the doctor, everything he had was broken into pieces right before his eyes. But even if all odds were against him, he kept moving forward. Even if it was broken into pieces, he carried this shattered dream with him and never let it go. Even if this dream was impossible, he at least had to try, and his life would change once again when he met a special hero. But our story doesn't start here. It starts a long ago. When Izuku was 7 years old, he and his friends were on a nearby woods, in front of a fence that blocked the entrance to a restricted area of the place. All of the kids, except for Izuku, were happy and excited to cross the fence and invade the area. "Come on, let's hunt some bad guys," yelled a blonde with spiky hair named Katsuki Bakugo, the leader of the group and terror of Izuku's childhood. Izuku and Katsuki were neighbors and childhood friends. They hanged out together since they were 3 years old, to the point where they were almost inseparable until Katsuki's quirk manifested. The blonde sweated a liquid similar to nitroglycerin from his hand and could detonate it at will to release powerful explosions. It was very strong quirk to say the least. Thanks to this amazing power and the constant praises he received because of it, he began to change. The sweet and caring kid became arrogant and prideful, treated anyone he deemed weaker than him like trash, and once he discovered that his best friend was quirkless, things only got worse. He started to bully the green-haired kid, started to call him names, and even created a nickname, Deku, the useless, and he never stopped. But even with the constant beat-ups and the insults that he threw at him, Izuku always trailed behind him. No one knew why, but no matter what Katsuki did, the freckled boy would always follow him in his adventures. As the blonde called, everyone followed him into the prohibited zone with Izuku right behind them. Once they crossed the fence, the group of kids encounter a small ladder that leads to the banks of a river and a large fallen log connecting both sides of the passage. "Follow my lead," Katsuki said as he walked through the passage standing on top of the log. Doing as the blonde said, the group followed his movements and started to cross. As they were halfway through it, everyone gasped seeing the explosive kid slip and fall on the river. "Kaken, are you all right?" yelled a chubby boy with a pair of red wings on his back. "Don't worry, I'm okay," Katsuki replied as he got up and massaged the back of his head. "Come on, let's kadash," he said as he was interrupted by a hand that was extended towards him. "Are you okay?" Izuku said as he offered a hand to the blonde. "It could be bad if you hit your head." That moment surprised everyone watching the scene as Izuku tried to help the person that made his life a living hell, but as the green-haired offered help with kindness in his eyes, Katsuki grew angrier at the gesture. "Go away, Deku, I don't need your help," Katsuki shouted as he slapped Izuku's hand, creating an explosion in the process and making the freckled kid fall on his back. "Let's keep moving," he shouted once again as he climbed the ladder and leaving Izuku behind. Following the explosive kid orders, the group started moving forward, leaving the green-haired alone in the river as he got up and rubbed his hand, trying to make the pain go away. Once he stood on his feet, he climbed the ladder and saw no one around and started to worry. "Oh no, they left me behind. I need to catch up," he said to himself as he followed the path. But no matter how much he walked, he couldn't find the group of boys that had left him behind. Seeing that no one was around, he started to think. Maybe they left the trail and entered the woods, he thought as he looked around once more trying to find one of his friends. I won't know if I just stay here. As he collected his thoughts, he turned to his right and entered the woods, hoping to find and rejoin the group of mini explorers. While he walked around, he found himself in front of a ditch. It was a lot bigger than the ladder by the river, to the point where it was kind of hard to see the bottom of it. Once he finished observing the fall and turned around to continue his search, he heard something coming from it. Someone help! A feminine voice yelled from the bottom of the ditch. It appeared to be in pain because of something, but he didn't know why. He then turned and looked into the ditch again, this time paying more attention. Looking carefully into the darkness, he noticed a small silhouette in the bottom of the hole. Once he connected the dots and understood what happened, he took action. Hello, are you alright? Izuku yelled. Why yeah, I'm alright, but I can't walk. I fell here and sprained my ankle. Can you help me? The voice answered, happy that someone appeared. Don't worry, I'll see what I can do, he yelled, looking around trying to find a way to help the person in need. As he searched for something that could help him in his situation, he found a small rocky path that led to the bottom of the ditch. Happy with his discovery, he yelled to the person. I found a way to go down, wait for me. Okay, the person answered. After receiving the confirmation, he started to come down the ditch with careful steps, and with each one he noticed how deep this ditch really was, and that made him wonder, how did she manage to survive this? Maybe it is because of her quirk. Once he reached the bottom of the hole, he saw, in the distance, a girl sitting down, massaging her feet with a painful expression in her face. It must be her, he thought as he ran toward her as fast as he could, and once he was right in front of her he looked at her calmly. She seemed to be a bit taller than him, had sky blue hair that reached her waist, eyes of the same color. She was wearing blue overalls with a purple shirt underneath and white shoes, but as he paid more attention to the girl, he noticed that her right feet was indeed sprained by the red tone that it had. Are you the person from earlier? The brunette asked. Yes, I am. My name is Izuku Midoriya, he answered as he came closer to take a look at her foot. My name is HenryHPS. She answered as a small smile formed in her face. The green-haired boy approached and knelt down so he could observe the wound. It didn't seem to be so bad, but if she said that she couldn't walk because of it, he would believe her. This hole is really deep. How did you survive the fall with only a sprained ankle? He questioned her, trying to understand how everything happened. I used my quirk to ease the fall. You see, I can use my energy to release shockwaves, but as you can notice, it didn't save me completely. She answered while massaging her foot once again. But what were you doing here by yourself? Izuku asked. I normally come to these woods and explore a little bit, but today I found an area I never seen before, and while I was looking around I found this ditch. I came closer to look at it, but the ground collapsed and I fell here. She explained herself, trying not to get embarrassed from her mistake. For how long have you been stuck here? The boy asked as he worried about her. I don't know, maybe 20 minutes. She answered, being a bit curious herself. Then let's get you out of here before someone gets worried, the boy said as he got up and extended his hand towards her. She gladly accepted the offer and, with his help, stood on her feet while holding herself on the boy's shoulder. Even with the difference of heights, he seemed to be able to carry her with no apparent difficulties. As now both of them were standing up, she looked at him and asked, How are we getting out of here? There is a small path right around the corner. I can carry you to the top if we go there, he said as he pointed to the path he used to get to the bottom of the ditch. But it is safe to do this? She questioned as she seemed to be a little worried about the idea. Don't worry, the path is sturdy enough, we can go through it easily, he answered while forming a small smile in his face. Kevin, I trust you, she agreed. And with that, Izuku carried Nijire to the top of the hole and back to safety. It was a bit harder to do because of the extra weight, but he didn't care. He would help this girl even if it was the last thing he would do. Once they were out of the hole, they distanced themselves from the ditch and sat in a nearby rock to relax a little before they began to walk out of the wood and look for more qualified help. As they both sighed in relief, she turned to him and began to talk. Thank you for taking me out of there. She thanked him for his act of kindness as bowed toward him. There is no need to thank me, I did what anyone would do, he answered while scratching the back of his head in embarrassment. But even so, you were the one that helped me and I can't thank you enough for what you did, but, if it is not too much, may I ask you a question? Sure, ask me anything, he replied. How did you find me? She asked. Oh, I was exploring with my friends too, but I got lost. I was looking for them until I found you. The boy was caught off guard with that question but answered her anyway. I see. But do you know where they are now? No, they're probably deeper in the woods searching for adventures. He answered and lowered his head, feeling a little sad. I am sorry, I didn't mean to make you sad, she apologized as she saw the boy's reaction. And no, it's fine, it's not like they care anyway, he said, wiping the sad look out of his face and replacing it with a smile, standing up and offering his hand. Come on, your ankle isn't going to treat itself. The girl took a moment but, once again, accepted his offer happily and clung to the boy's shoulder. They looked at each other and nodded, taking a step forward and walking their way out of the deep woods. The air between them was a little tense as both of them were concentrated on getting out of there, but once they managed to get back onto the main trail, Nijire decided to break the ice. So, what do you want to be? She asked, not knowing how to properly start the conversation. What do you mean? He asked her, confused by the question. What do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, that's easy, I want to be a cool hero, just like All Might. Izuku exclaimed, lifting his fist up in the air. Really? That's so cool. I'm sure you'll be a great hero once you grow up. You think so? But of course. After all, you just saved me, she said with a bright smile on her face. The boy didn't know how to react to this. Aside from his mother, no one had ever shown this type of affection to him. It was just heartwarming. So, if you want to be a hero, you must have a very cool quirk, don't you? Could you show it to me? Nijire asked, excited. Her words hit Izuku like a truck. He didn't have a quirk. What was he going to say? He was starting to get desperate. He needed to answer the girl quickly. It's not L like that, he said, letting his nervousness get the best of him. What do you mean, it's not like that? We're friends, right? You can tell me, I'm not gonna judge, she said, getting even more excited. Friend, that is a word Izuku hadn't heard in a long time. Someone he just met wanted to be friends with him. He didn't know how to react. Should he be happy? Should he be nervous? He didn't know. At that moment, all he did was let his tongue run loose. I'm quirkless, he had said it. What? The brunette froze hearing his word. She had never seen this before, a person that didn't have a quirk of its own. She didn't know how to do, she didn't know what to say. All she could do was stand there and stare at the poor boy and imagine all that he had gone through because of that. I discovered this 2 years ago, and because I'm quirkless, no one wants to play with me, no one ever believes in me, no one ever wants to be my friend, and the boys in my class hit me. Because I'm quirkless, I'm always alone. I can never do anything right, but even so, I want to become a hero. I want to become someone that can save anyone with a bright smile in his face. Do you really think I can become a hero? And there he was, he had told her the truth. He didn't know why he did it, but it all just came out. He couldn't hold back those words anymore. They hurt too much. At this point, both were just standing in the middle of the trail, waiting for one of them to say something. Izuku was just staring at the ground, trying to gather enough courage to keep going, but his attempt was interrupted by a sob. He turned to girl and was surprised by what he saw. The girl was crying her eyes out, her tears were flowing down her cheeks, and her smile was now all wobbly as she looked at the green-haired kid, trying to speak in between sobs. Weiss, you can, she said with difficulty while trying to make a straight face. She just couldn't believe in this. This sweet boy had gone through so much and never gave up, never turned back, even with all odds against him. He kept moving forward and followed his conviction. This story had really touched her. She didn't even care anymore. She just wanted to help the freckled kid. She wanted to make him happy, no matter what. As she moved, she wrapped her arms around the green-haired child and pulled him into a tight hug. Izuku was stunned by her act of affection. He couldn't understand. All people that discovered about him being quirkless always distanced themselves from him, but this girl did the opposite. She wanted to get closer. He did not understand. All he did was accept the hug and cry on her shoulder. The two stayed like this for a while, letting all the tears fall and tightening the hug they gave each other. When they ran out of breath, They separated from the tight embrace and looked at each other's faces, red and swollen eyes, humid cheeks and wobbly smiles was all they saw. After a brief moment of staring, a soft laugh came from Nijire followed by Izuku laughing as well. There was no more tension between them. We should probably get going, our parents must be worried. Izuku started as he supported the bluenet on his shoulders once again. Are you ready? He asked her with a proper smile in his face this time. Whenever you are, she replied. And so they began to walk once again, with a smile on their faces the whole time. It took a while, but they managed to out of the woods and, as they reached the city, found the girl's parents looking for her in the entrance of the forest. Once the two adults noticed their presence, they rushed towards the kids. Nijire! The parents yelled in unison. Once they were close enough, Izuku let go of the girl and watched as she was hugged by her worried parents. They seemed so happy together that he did not interrupt the scene and just observed. I'm so glad you're okay, we were worried sick, the father said as he wrapped his arm around the girl and rubbed the back of her head. Please, tell us what happened, the mother said as she got closer and hugged her daughter too. I was exploring the woods like I usually do when I fell into a ditch and hurt my foot. If it wasn't for this boy I would still be there, she said as she pointed toward Izuku. The parents calmed down a little and looked to the boy. The father suddenly left the girl with her mother, who held the girl in her arms, and approached the freckled kid with a serious aura around him. What is your name, kid? He asked. I is Izuku Midoriya, he answered, being a little scared by the man's tone. Without any hesitation, the adult got on his knees and bowed before the child with his forehead now touching the ground. Thank you, Izuku. Thank you for saving my daughter, he said as the seriousness was replaced with pure happiness and gratitude. Izuku was a bit surprised by the man's action and looked to the women in front of him. Nijire was giggling seeing her father bow like that, and her mother only held a soft smile on her lips. With a bit of hesitation, he approached the man and touched his shoulder. There is no need to thank me, I only did what I thought was right, the green-haired said as the man stood up and looked at him with a warm smile in his face. And for that we can't thank you enough, kid, we own you one, he replied as he went back to his wife and grabbed Nijire to hold her in his arms. Say, Izuku, would you like if we took you home? It's the least we can do to thank you, the mother asked as she looked to the boy. Izuku was surprised once again, he never met them before. Was this really a good idea? He then looked at Nijire one last time. She just smiled to him, practically begging with her eyes that he accepted the offer. The green-haired took a deep breath and said, It would be great. With his confirmation, they guided Izuku towards the family car and let him seat on the back with Nijire by his side. Once everyone was ready, they hit the road back to the city. The boy was a little tense. He never had been with them, especially in their car. Even if he trusted Nijire, he couldn't help but get a little worried. As he gave directions to the man at the wheel, he felt a little pat on his shoulder. He turned around and saw the bluenet gesturing for him to get closer. After he had answered the request, the girl approached and gave him a small kiss on the cheek. The boy just looked at her, completely stunned. His cheeks were turning into a shade of red no one had ever seen before as he stuttered with every attempt to speak. The girl, however, just stared at him with a big smile in her face and a slight blush on her cheeks. Thank you for helping me, she said as her smile got even bigger and prettier. Why, we're welcome, Izuku said, trying to recompose himself. The pair of adults could only watch through the rearview mirror and smile at the scene. A young love, this does bring back some memories, the father said, keeping his eyes on the road. It sure does, the mother replied, looking to the road as well. And so the day had come to an end. Izuku was brought home safely and back into his mother's arms, who apparently was about to call the police. The group of parents had exchanged numbers in order to keep in contact, and Nijire was taken to the hospital to get her foot treated, but all this time, the only thing Izuku could think of was, I was kissed by a girl. After a couple of days, the families had decided to visit the local park in order to see each other again, and so reuniting. The pair of kid one more time. But this time around, Nijire wasn't so cheerful. What, you're moving away? Izuku said, caught off guard with the news. Yeah, we are. My parents found a cheaper apartment for us, but it is far away from here, so we won't be able to see each other again. She replied, getting sad with the news herself. That's so sad, we just met and have to be separated. It's not so bad. My mother said there are lots of cool places to visit, and since it is cheaper we'll be able to do a lot more than we could here. Nijire said with a small smile in her lips. But that means we won't be able to see each other, even if it is for the better. It makes me a little sad. The boy exclaimed, staring at the ground. The brunette stopped for a moment and started thinking. She was the only friend he had and she already had to leave him behind. She really didn't want to, but it was necessary. What could she do to make him happy? With hundreds of ideas crossing her mind, she finally decided. How about we make a promise then? What do you mean? Izuku asked. You said you wanted to be a hero, didn't you? Yes, I want to be just like All Might. Then how about we promise this? Once we both become cool heroes, we find each other and stating working together. What do you say? She said as she extended her pinky finger toward him. Wait, you want to be a hero too? Izuku asked, confused by the girl's proposal. But of course, I want to be just like my hero, the brunette answered with the biggest smile she could make. The green-haired stopped and thought a little. The journey to become a hero is not so easy. It would take years before they could keep this promise. Was this really a god idea? He looked at her one more time and saw Nijire, with her pinky still pointed toward him and one of the softest smiles he had ever seen, waiting for his answer. So, without hesitation, he interlaced his pinky with hers and said, It's a promise. Once we become cool heroes, we will meet each other once again. Then it's done, she said as she pulled him into a tight hug, so tight that Izuku was having a hard time breathing. After a moment, they separated from the embrace and stared at each other. Both were blushing lightly, but their happiness had completely covered their embarrassment until they were interrupted by a deep voice calling them. Nijire and Izuku, get back here, we're going back home. Nijire's father called them as he waved with the pair of mothers right behind him. Let's go? The brunette asked to the shy boy. Sure, let's get back, he replied as both of them run toward their families. And with that they parted ways. 1 week later the Hato family had moved to a far place and Izuku was left alone once again, but this time he had a promise to keep. He would give his hardest to become a hero everyone would respect, so one day, they could meet each other again. With time, his memories were getting blurrier. It was hard for him to remember how the girl looked like. All he could remember was the pretty color of her hair, and that memory he would never let go. The years flied before his eyes and the world wasn't holding back, always trying to make him give up and search for another dream, but he kept going. No matter how hard the world hit him, he would always get up and keep following his dream, quirkless or not. He would keep his promise and nothing was going to stop him. Even when his own idol told him to stop, he kept going, and now we are here. Izuku was now 14 years old and was lying on his knees with teary as he stood in front of the #1 hero, his idol, All Might, who had offered him something people would kill to have. So, what do you say, will you inherit my quirk? All Might said, staring at the teen with determined eyes. I accept. A quick answer. I expected nothing less. And so, his first step on the journey to become a hero was taken. This was the first step to becoming the greatest hero of all. A lot of time has passed since Izuku met All Might and started training with him in order to inherit his quirk, the one for all. It was a complete hell for the poor hero wannabe. He was assigned to clean the Dagoba Municipal Beach Park in a time span of 10 months in order to participate in UA's entrance exam. He had to move fridges, carry tires and microwaves. He even moved a car once, but in the end all the effort was worth it. Izuku not only cleaned the entire beach but also managed to do it in time to take the exam. He can still remember the moment All Might gave him his power. Eat this, the #1 hero said as he gave the boy a stand of his hair. What? Izuku was shocked with All Might told him to do. Why do I have to eat his hair? Is this how the quirk is passed? The boy though while wearing a blank expression. It doesn't really matter what it is as long as you take my DNA. Now hurry and eat my hair. All Might said as he now shoved the strand in the boy's mouth. Wait a moment, please. The green-haired said, being a little scared by the hero's fast change of attitude. It took a while, but Izuku manages to swallow the piece of hair. He could feel the strand go down his throat and wished he could just vomit it out of him, but he had to do it or else all the training he did would have gone to a waste, and the idea of having to try again was enough to make him swallow it as if it was the most delicious thing Earth had ever seen. Did you eat it? the hero asked, curious if the kid did as asked. Yeah, I did. He replied, trying to hold back the urge to puke. Good. But I don't feel any different. Is it really going to work? Izuku asked. He really didn't feel like the power had entered in his system. He still felt like the plain, quirkless boy he always was. Of course it is going to work, but it is not instantaneous. How do you think your stomach works in the first place? But do not panic, kid. One for all will have entered your body by the time you're doing the exam. All Might said as he approached the new successor as he knelt before him and placed a hand on his shoulder. Now listen carefully, young Midoriya. We may have turned you in a proper vessel, but we did it in a hurry. You're not used to use this power, so expect some real kickbacks once you use it. Izuku just nodded in approval as All Might spoke seriously. Whatever he's talking about, it must really hurt, thought the now buff teen while he zipped his jacket. Now hurry, you don't want to be late for the entrance exam, do you? The number one hero said as he got up and changed into his true form. Sir. Ugh, just thinking about it gives me shivers, the boy said while he walked towards the building. I wonder what type of kickbacks was All Might was talking about. Izuku had been thinking about it all morning. What would happen when he finally used one for all? The doubt on its own was already consuming him. But right now, he didn't have time to think about it, he had to focus. Get out of my way, Deku, or I'll kill you. Katsuki shouted, catching the introvert off guard. Hey Kaken, let's do our best today, alright? The green-haired teen said as he shook his arms in front of him. But, to his surprise, Katsuki just passed by him. No more insults, no beat-ups, nothing. Is this because of the sludge villain? He wondered. After the awkward moment, he recomposed himself and restarted his walk toward the building. This is it, my first step to fulfill my promise and become a great hero, he tripped while thinking of it. Why did I open my big mouth? As Izuku prepared himself for damage of the fall, he was surprised when he noticed he did not hit the floor. In fact, he was floating right now. Are you all right? He heard a sweet voice talk to him. When he looked to his left, he saw this pretty girl with shoulder-length brown hair, big brown eyes and rosy cheeks, standing right beside him. She was touching his backpack and proceeded to put him back on the floor before she touched her fingertips. I'm sorry, I used my quirk without asking, she said, smiling. It would be bad luck if you fell, right? But he didn't know what to say right now. All he could do was to grumble. I gotta go, see ya, she exclaimed, waving while leaving him behind. Izuku was now standing still in the middle of the way, shaking and looking where the girl was standing. He looked toward the building with a very awkward face and thought, I talked to a girl. Even if he hadn't said a word. After the written test and a couple minutes of explanation on how the practical exam would work, all competitors were now in front of a massive gate, waiting for the exam to start. Izuku was in the middle of the crowd, recapping the rules and what he should do once he entered the fake city. Okay, I just got to destroy as many robots as possible to gather enough points to pass. Easy, right? After a brief moment of deep thought, all Izuku could do was begin to sweat and yell inside his mind. How the hell am I going to do that? He was extremely nervous about it, as All Might had said. He had just inherited one for all and had no experience on using it. All those videos of the number one hero in action are nothing compared to being there and doing it. Not only that he had no experience with his quirk, but he also had no combat practice whatsoever. He knew how to throw punches, but would that be enough to take down a large number of robots, even with his new power? He looked around to the people he was going against. There were people with wings, tails, giant arms, etc., but all had one thing in common. They all seemed more prepared to the exam than him. I just hope that I'm not placed with the guy with glasses, he thought to himself. Just thinking about the guy gave him shivers. That boy seemed to be really intense, not just by his formal way of speaking but from the aura he emanated as well. He had scared Izuku down to the bone. While looking through the crowd, he spotted the same pretty girl form before. With shaking legs, he started to walk towards her. I should thank her for what she did earlier. Before he could reach the girl and thank her for the act of kindness, he felt a strong hand grabbing his shoulder. He turned around to see who wanted his attention, and for his disbelief, it was the same teen with glasses he wished he hadn't been paired with. He has combed bluish black hair, with the same color of his hair and rectangular blue glasses. Why are you here? Hopping to interfere? He said with a glare that seemed to pierce through Izuku's soul. Why you're here too? The green-haired exclaimed. That girl right there, she seems to be trying to concentrate. Do you want to interrupt her so she isn't focused for the exam? The teen said with a serious tone. No, that's not Wadash. Hey, isn't that kid the one who was acting like an idiot in the front gate? An examinee said, interrupting Izuku. I guess that's one less rival to worry about, another person said. Izuku didn't know who it was though. Izuku's self-esteem was already brought to the floor with these few sentences as they had already disregarded him from the competition, and he swore that heard a big part of the crowd say, "We're so lucky." It would be a bad day for him, wouldn't it? But before he could start complaining about his life in his mind, he heard a very powerful shout coming from the top of a nearby building. And start. Every contestant looked to the top of the building and saw Present Mike, the same hero who had told them the rules, announcing the beginning of the test. What, did you expect a countdown or something? Come on, the exam has already started, he shouted again, pointing to the city. The green-haired recomposed himself and looked at the main gate. This is it, he thought as he watched everyone run into the city, leaving him eating dust. I'm already behind, he yelled in his mind while entering the city as fast as he could. While venturing through the city, Izuku remembered all the words All Might had said to him. When you use one for all, clench you but cheeks and let your heart cry out, saying SM dash. Before he could remember the whole phrase, he was interrupted by a giant green robot with a number 1 painted in its right arm, bursting through the wall of a building. It's a one-pointer, Izuku said, startled by the robot's sudden appearance. Target locked. Prepare for termination, the faux villain said as he marked and rushed towards the teen. He tried moving out of the way, but his shaky legs wouldn't allow him. Holy heck, I'm going to die. The freckled teen covered his eyes, hoping for the best to happen. As the robot prepared to attack him, a shiny blue laser pierced through the bot's chest, destroying it. Izuku looked around and saw a blond boy holding his hand behind his head as the belt in his waist steamed from the blast it had just released. We make a great team, you serving as bait and I getting the point, he said while running towards another robot. But I don't think we'll be able to do that again, adieu. 6 minutes and 2 seconds remaining. Izuku heard Present Mike shout. From the top of the same building. Oh no, I'm running out of time, the green-haired thought as he turned around a nearby corner. When he entered the new area, he was stunned by what he saw. Pure and utter destruction. Robots were being crushed all over the place. Explosions could be heard from miles away while the contestants fought against the false villains. As he looked at the scenario in front of him, he saw the pretty girl from before touching as many robots as she could, making them float high in the sky, before clapping her hands together, making them fall for their doom. Okay, that should be 29 points, she said, completely exhausted from the overuse of her quirk. 29 points? But how did Dash? He wondered before he heard an explosion coming from his left. He turned around and saw the boy with glasses kicking a 2-pointer in the head, destroying it completely. He then shouted, Okay, that's 45. 45. What did he get so many? Izuku asked himself. Every other contestant around him were shouting similar numbers while the robots were being destroyed. The boy didn't know what to do. There weren't many bots left and he didn't even know if he could bring them down. He needed to do something and he needed to do it now. He rushed toward a 1-pointer standing in the middle of the battlefield, but before he could do anything else, a very loud sound came from a nearby building. He looked at origin of it and froze. A robot bigger than all buildings of the fake city with a big 0 on its face crushed everything in its path while getting closer to the group of contestants. That's the 0-pointer. Izuku thought as the machine attacked them, causing a massive blast of wind and dust to hit the teenagers. Most of them managed to get away unharmed while all the robots in that battlefield were sent far away. Isn't that a little too much? Izuku yelled inside his mind as he tried to get up and run away from the metallic beast, but his shaky body was not letting him get up. All other contestants were running for their lives, leaving everything behind with Izuku included. The robot kept coming closer, shaking the ground as he did. Get up, get up, get up. I have to run. I'm still stuck at 0 points, I have to run. Izuku shouted as he tried to stand on his legs, but it was of no use, he was too afraid to do so. Ow! He heard a grunt of pain coming from behind him. Izuku just stopped moving when he heard that sound. Even knowing that the robot wasn't going to stop, he froze in place and slowly turned around and saw the pretty girl far away, with one of her legs stuck in a pile of debris the robot created, struggling as she tried to run for her life. The metallic beast got closer to her every second, and Izuku stood there with two phrases said by two different voices roaming endlessly in his mind. You said you wanted to be hero, didn't you? It would be bad luck if you fell, right? With all his strength, Izuku got up and charged at the 0-pointer. He didn't know why, maybe it was the adrenaline or the idea of the girl getting crushed, but in that moment he just let his body take him. While he rushed toward the metallic beast, he felt a surge of power run through his legs and jumped with all he had, shooting high in the sky, now in face-to-face with the machine. As the power he felt before was now circulating in his arm, he clenched his fist and remembered those words. When you use one for all, clench you but cheeks and let your heart cry out, saying, Smaz. With all his might, he punched the machine right in the middle of its face, creating a dent and sending it flying toward the edge of the fake city, breaking everything in the way. His knuckles were completely busted as he hovered in the air while everyone in the ground just gasped with the sheer power he had demonstrated. So this is it, this is one for all, he exclaimed in his mind, thinking of how amazing this power really was. And like all things affected by gravity, he started to fall very quickly, but what surprised him the most was the state his limbs were. His arm and his legs were completely broken, their skin was red like blood and were moving in unnatural ways, and the pain was unbearable. While he now reached high speeds, his eyes rolled to the back of his head as he passed out due to the pain. He was falling for his doom and he wouldn't even know about it. Meters away from the ground and close to his death, he received a powerful slap from the girl he had just saved and began to float. She was on top of a broken robot that was also floating as she struggled to clap her hands together. Our release, she said with difficulty as her hands connected, releasing her quirk and making both the robot she was on top of and Izuku fall to the ground safely. Once on the ground, the girl began to vomit, saying goodbye to her breakfast. After she finished throwing up, she looked at the green-haired teen and saw the state his limbs were. Is his quirk the cause of this? She asked herself while she came down from the broken machine and got closer to the boy who was now laying on his back. Time's up. Present Mike shouted, announcing the end of the exam from the top of the building. As the exam was finally brought into a close, all examinees gathered around the broken teen, curious about what they had witnessed. What was that? Someone asked. He must have a strength-enhancing quirk, but that was something else, another examinee exclaimed. But with a quirk like that, how'd this kid get to be such a scaredy cat? Another one asked. Was it all just an act to throw us off? Can't see it helping him though. While the contestants discussed what had just happened, the teen with glasses analyzed everything from afar, but, oddly enough, his line of thought was very different from everyone else's. That's not it. Weren't they even watching? He asked himself. He jumped in to save that girl. The remaining time, his own safety, what he needed to pass, there was a lot to consider, but he did it without hesitation. I mean, if this weren't an exam, I would have done the same, he yelled in his mind, doubting his own decisions a little. Wait, the exam, could it be? He questioned. Well done everyone, well done. His thoughts were interrupted as he turned around and saw a small, elderly woman walking through the crowd and giving candy to some contestants nearby. The woman was apparently in her hero uniform, which consisted of a white coat that reached the floor with a pink dress. Underneath, a white mask with a pink visor and a syringe-shaped cane. Once through the mass of teenagers, the old heroine stood in front of the unconscious boy and brunette right beside him. Oh my, did your own quirk did this to you? He asked herself, looking down at the teen. Almost as though your body isn't used to it. The elderly leaned down and kissed the boy's forehead with her extended lips. In the same moment her lips touched him, his broken limbs shone in a green color as they reverted to their normal appearance with no wounds remaining. Everyone's jaw dropped watching the scene until one examinee exclaimed, "She can heal such serious wounds with a kiss?" But of course, said the blonde teen who stole one of Izuku's points. That mademoiselle is the backbone of UA and the reason why they are allowed to take such dangerous tests. Once all of his injuries were healed, the youthful heroine turned around and asked, "Anyone need medical assistance?" As a couple of hands were raised, the heroine entered the crowd once again, leaving the pair of teenagers alone. With everything back to normal, Izuku's eyes slowly opened and were met with the brightness of the sun and a feminine silhouette staring at him with worried eyes. It took a moment, but all recent memories finally flooded his brain as his eyes shot open as he stood up and shouted, "Holy heck, I'm alive!" Surprising everyone with his loud words, Izuku looked around and was scared with what he saw, the zero-pointer laying in the edge of the city, completely destroyed. "Was my punch this powerful?" he asked himself, still unsure of how that happened. "Are you all right?" he heard a soft voice coming from behind him ask. Turning around, he saw the brunette kneeling next to him. It had caught him off guard. She was worried for him. She was worried for a total stranger, but she was there, waiting for an answer. With a bit hesitation, he replied, "Yeah, I'm all right." "Thank God." But are you all right? Wasn't your leg stuck on those debris?" Izuku asked, still worried about the girl's well-being. "Don't worry about it, I got stuck but they didn't actually hurt me, but thanks for the help anyway, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you." "Why, you're welcome. I guess I just could not let you get crushed like that." Izuku sighed. "But if you don't mind me asking, what did you do with that robot?" "That power was amazing," she asked, pointing to the destroyed machine. That was my quirk, but I can't control it properly yet." "Really? It must be a very powerful quirk then. I'm sure once you control it you'll be an incredible hero," she exclaimed, looking really hyped up about it until she remembered something. "Oh, how rude of me, I didn't even introduce myself. I'm Ochako Uraraka, nice to meet you." "Oh right, I'm Izuku Midoriya and it is nice to meet you too." It happened in an uncommon way but it happened. Izuku was having a real conversation with this girl and he was happy about it. After everything that had occurred the least they could do was introduce themselves and talk a little, and like that they stayed while Recovery Girl treated the other examinees, but this precious moment would not last long. "Everyone who is still present, the battlefield will be closed in 5 minutes. Please leave the area so the pros can do the cleanup." Present Mike shouted, interrupting the conversation between the teens. "Well then Izuku, let's go," Ochako exclaimed, quickly getting back on her feet and offering a hand to the green-haired boy who accepted it happily. With a quick movement, Izuku was brought back to his feet as well and was ready to go back home, until he gave his first step, that is. After attempting to start his walk, he felt his legs shake and lack of energy to keep his balance, falling straight to Ochako's shoulder, who yelped in response. What happened?" she asked. I don't know, I just can't move my body." Izuku answered with a blushing face due to the proximity, but it's not like he could help himself. "It's because I healed you," Recovery Girl said as she approached the teens who were caught by surprise. "My quirk allows me to accelerate your healing process with a kiss at the cost of your energy, and since you just healed 3 broken limbs it was expected that you would not be able to move for a while," she explained. But how long will it last?" Izuku asked. "I'm not sure and why I'm still here. I'll need to run a few tests on you before I can say you're free to go, so, if it is not much for you, could you please help me to take him to the infirmary, little missy?" the heroine asked, pointing her cane to Ochako. "Of course. It's the least I can do," she answered. "Then follow me," Recovery Girl said, showing the path. It took a while but, after the tests, Izuku was free to go back home and see his mother, who was waiting for him and about to tear up, thinking the worst had happened. Still tired for the healing quirk, he went straight to his room and laid down on his bed, wondering what the aftermath of the exam would be. The next week flew by while the green-haired teen waited for his letter to discover what the result would be, although he had an idea of what it would be like. He had performed well in the written exam but with 0 points in the practical, he was sure he would not get in the course and, even with all odds against him, he couldn't stop hoping that some miracle would happen and he would be accepted. By the end of the week, the letter had arrived. It was retrieved by his mother who had just returned from a grocery store and found the mailman on her way back. Right now, Izuku was sitting on the chair of his desk with the letter in front of him, trying to gather enough courage to open it and face the consequences. Full of anxiety and doubt, he grabbed the letter and ripped it open, letting a couple of papers and a small disc fall on the desk. The disc rolled a little until it stopped and started shinning and forming a big image of All Might in front of his face. "I'm here. A projection," he yelled, catching Izuku off guard. "All Might. But I thought this was from UA? It's been a while, young Midoriya. I'm sorry I wasn't able to contact you earlier, but anyway. The only reason I'm in this town is because I going to teach at UA. All Might said as a small hand creeped from the side of the projection and signalized to the number 1 hero to hurry up. "What do you mean with get to the point? Whatever I want to say can be said later." "Ugh, fine." "Ahem." He coughed and looked back at Izuku. "Even if you passed at the written exam, the 0 you got at the practical exam would naturally result in failure." All Might said. The teen knew this was coming, but it still hurt him, after all the time and sweat put into the training. It was all for naught. He could not feel more pathetic until... But that's not the end of the story. As the teen looked up, he saw the hero holding a remote and pointing it to a nearby monitor, turning it on and showing the image of the girl he saved from the 0 pointer. She was wearing what seemed to be her school uniform and was approaching Present Mike in the middle of a hallway. "Ochako? What is she doing?" Izuku asked himself, confused with why this was being shown to him. "Excuse me," she said, grabbing the hero's attention. "She came to see us right after the test. Wanna know why? Pay attention. Do you remember one of the contestants? His name is Izuku Midoriya." Ochako said, catching the teen's attention. "He was the one who destroyed the 0 pointer." She took a little pause. "I would like share some of my points with him." Izuku was surprised by what she had just said. She wants to share points. "But why?" he questioned in his mind. "I heard he say, stuck in 0 points earlier, so that means he did not get a single point, right?" With that said, all that had been connected in Izuku's mind. "Please, let me give some of my points to him. He gave up on his chance to get in and risked his life just to save me. He deserves to get in more than anybody else." At this point, the boy was about to tear up. Had his actions really moved her? He questioned himself over and over again, thinking his eyes were tricking him. You've acquired your quirk and moved others with your actions. What kind of hero course rejects someone who did the right thing? In this job, you risk your life and put your money where your mouth is. Turning back to the monitor, Present Mike was now patting Ochako's head as a way to stop her speech. "I'm sorry, but I don't think we can share your points, but there shouldn't be a need for that, little listener," the hero said with a small smile on his face. "In this exam, we weren't just judging with villain-based points, there were also rescue point. For you, Izuku Midoriya, 60 rescue points." The green-haired now stood up, trying to pull himself together after such an amazing revelation. "And while we're at it, 45 points for Ochako Uraraka, you're both in. Now come." All Might said, moving his hand towards the young hero. "This is your Hero Academia." I had passed the entrance exam. It was all Izuku could think. UA was the hero course with the lowest approval rate in the entire country, and he had passed. There was no word that could describe how happy he was, and the amount of tears that he and his mother had shed together, but that did not matter. What mattered was that Izuku was in. After the small celebration his mother had pulled of, the green-haired teen went straight to bed so he could have the best night of sleep in his entire life, but before he could lay on his bed, his phone rang. As he grabbed the device and turned it on, he saw a notification informing that All Might had messaged him. "Congratulations for getting in, young Midoriya," the text said. "Thanks, it was all because of you." Izuku replied. "Nonsense. It was all because of your dedication and hard work." All Might texted. The teen could image the man turning into his buff form while saying that. "But without getting out of topic, I would like to meet you tomorrow morning at the beach. I have something I'd like to discuss." "Did something happen?" Izuku asked, worried that something bad had happened to his idol. "Do not worry, my boy, I just want to talk about one for all." "I see. Well then, tomorrow it is," the boy replied. "Thank you, young Midoriya, but if you excuse me, I have to finish some paperwork. Have a good night." "You too, All Might." And with that, Izuku turned his cell phone off and laid on the bed. What is it that All Might wants to talk with me? He wondered. After a brief moment, the green-haired closed his eyes and slept. After all, now he had a reason to wake up early. All Might, I'm here. Izuku yelled as he saw the number 1 hero in his skinny form on the distance. The hero was taken back by the approach, even coughed a bit of blood. All Might. Where is he? A bystander said. Repeat after me, just my eyes playing tricks on me. All Might ordered. Doing as told, Izuku repeated and managed to trick the bystanders and continue his conversation with his idol, who pulled a newspaper and gave it to the teen. When reading the paper, the green-haired boy was surprised by what was written. Mysterious well-doer cleans Dagoba Municipal Beach Park. You're becoming kind of famous, my boy. Even got the first page of today's journal. All Might praised as Izuku read the journal. But they don't know it was me. It just proves how noble you are. But cleaning the beach was your idea. Izuku said. I almost seemed like he was trying to negate the compliments. But it was you who did it, so please, stop putting yourself down like this. All Might said, giving the teen a small pat on the head. Now, changing the subject, I want you to tell me, how was your experience on using One for All for the first time? It was different that Izuku replied, not sure of how to answer himself. But how did it feel? Well, the teen said, taking a little pause trying to organize his thoughts. It felt like putting an egg in a microwave, he concluded. So unique. All Might yelled, surprised by how the teenager described using the sacred power. But why is it so important? The green-haired teen asked. That is why I asked you to come here today. I was watching the entrance exam along with the other teachers of UA, and I observed you using your new quirk very carefully, and as I expected, you still have zero control over it, or you go for nothing or you go all out. The hero explained, making Izuku feel a little bad about the reaction. So I am going to train you on how to control it before UA starts. Those words surprised Izuku. All Might planned on teaching him on how to control a quirk that breaks him on use. Just how is he going to do that? But how? We only have 2 weeks before it starts, and every time I use it I break myself. Not only that, your schedule is very tight as well, and we barely know how much power I dash. Slow down, my boy. All Might interrupted his muttering spree, causing the teen to give a small. Yup. Your questions are very easy to be answered. Since you did the entrance exam, I've been doing my best to get as much free time as can, and I managed to get these next 2 weeks completely free aside from my 3 hours of hero work. He explained. And about the bone-breaking thing, do you remember the heroine that healed you? All Might asked. Why, yes I do. Her name was Recovery Girl. Well, she is a very close friend of mine and knows about the secrets of One for All. I explained your situation to her and she agreed to come help me on teaching you on how to control the quirk. He explained. Really? That's incredible. Izuku said, almost jumping out of pure joy. But listen carefully. All Might said, catching his successor attention. Even with help, your journey to control One for All will not be easy, so I want you to prepare yourself both mentally and physically. The pro exclaimed. I'll do my best. The teen yelled with a determined look on his eyes. Now that's a reaction I like to see. So get ready and meet me at UA. Tomorrow at the same time, me and Recovery Girl will be waiting. Yes, sir. And with that, both holders of One for All departed and continued with their daily activities, but Izuku only had one thing in mind. How was All Might be going to train him with so little time? Well, no matter what he was going to do, he would have his answers by tomorrow morning. It was around 8 in the morning and Izuku was already at the train station, waiting for his ride to UA, and while he waited he texted All Might, making sure that everything was ready or that he wasn't too late. After all, he didn't want to leave his idol waiting. After the train ride, the freckled teen was now in front of UA gates and walking towards the building. As he looked to the gates, he saw the number 1 hero and the youthful heroine waving at him. Waving back, he compared the heights of both heroes that were in front of him. Recovery Girl was so small that she would need to get 3 times bigger than she already was to get in All Might's size. It was almost funny. Good morning, young Midoriya. All Might greeted as the teen finally got close. Good morning. Izuku replied. So you really are the next holder of One for All, huh? Recovery Girl questioned, although she already knew the truth. From what I can remember, you have zero control over the quirk, don't you? Why yeah? Izuku said, lowering his head to talk to the elderly. We are going to have a lot of work then. Come on, let's not waste any more time and begin your training session. Please follow me, she said, entering the campus. Yes, Mrs. Recovery Girl. Izuku yelled, following the pro heroes. Just call me Chio from now on. As they went deeper into the campus, they entered the same mock city that was used during the entrance exams. It was in the same conditions that it was left on, broken buildings and debris everywhere. Now in the middle of the city, All Might stopped and said, Okay, use One for All. Just like that, the green-haired asked, caught off guard by the pro's words. But of course. How are we going to train you if we don't know your limits? So please show it for us. Use it on that building over there, it is almost completely destroyed anyway, the number one hero said, pointing towards the said building. Analyzing the building, what he had said was correct. The building looked like it could fall apart at any moment. Following the hero's orders, he took a step forward and pulled his fist back, letting the power flow through his muscles, and with a big swing, a giant blast of wind pressure was released. But instead of destroying just the broken building, the blast also destroyed a good chunk of the mock city, making the wind roar and lift a cloud of dust. Both heroes covered their eyes, protecting them from the shockwave the attack had created. After a brief moment, the dust fell down, allowing the pros to see what the teen had caused and making their jaws drop in the process. That single attack had destroyed kilometers of the city, only leaving wreckage behind. Once recomposed, both heroes looked at Teen. He had his right arm completely broken. The skin of the limb was in an extremely dark shade of red and he was grunting of pain, almost falling to his knees. Amazing! He is even more powerful than me in my prime. All Might thought, completely taken back by the sheer power the teen had demonstrated. Not wasting time, both heroes rushed towards the broken teenager to help. Here, let me heal you, Recovery Girl said as she planted a kiss on the broken arm, healing it in an instant. Thanks, Izuku said. As the energy consumption finally hit the green-haired, he fell to his knees, getting more worried looks from the adults. Quickly recomposing himself, Izuku flashed a thumbs up, signaling he was okay. I'm just not used to it, he explained. And you shouldn't. That's why we are here, All Might said, extending a hand to Izuku, who gladly accepted it and got back on his feet. Now that we know what you're fully capable of, we can start to think on ways to train you, Chio said, scratching the back of her head. And how are we going to do it? Izuku asked, still curious about what they were going to do. The pros looked at each other for a moment, almost reading the other's thoughts. They turned to the teen, both wearing a serious expression. You are going to fight me, All Might said bluntly. What? Izuku shouted, completely surprised by how they wanted to train him. He had just earned his quirk and now they wanted him to fight its original owner and current strongest hero, All Might himself. Are they crazy? Izuku thought. Calm down, we're not asking you to fight him seriously, it can badly be considered a fight, to be honest. Recovery Girl started. Since One for All is too powerful to be trained like other quirks, you'll be directing your attacks on me until you get used to a percentage of power that your body can withstand, and I will cancel your attacks. This way we can train you while bringing property damage to a minimum. All Might finished. But won't that be bad for you? I mean, you can only stay in your hero form for 3 hours, not mention your wound. Is this really a good idea? Izuku asked, worried about his idol's safety. It isn't good, but it seems to be the most effective way, and don't worry about my wound, young Midoriya. Your attacks may be strong, but I have survived being hit with a lot worse, All Might said as he took a step forward and started to generate steam. Now come, shall your training begin? He said, now in his buff form. I'll back off a little, one mistake coming from you too and you can say goodbye to me, Chio said as she created distance between her and the One for All users. But how am I supposed to control One for All? I have no idea on how. Izuku asked. Remember when I asked you how One for All felt like? Why, I do. Like putting an egg in a microwave. Remember that feeling and concentrate on it to make sure the egg doesn't blow up. Reduce the power and shorten cooking time until you feel comfortable with it, and then hit me with all you got. All Might instructed while flexing his muscles to demonstrate sturdiness. Okay, I'll try, the introvert said as he pulled his fist back and let the power surge through it. The egg will not explode, Izuku said in his mind, trying his hardest to concentrate. It will not. It will not. With the mantra being repeated in his mind, the teen felt the power in his body being reduced and, feeling safe with the amount of power he had gathered, he threw a punch toward the number one hero but, as the fist was about to connect with the pro's body, the image of All Might's wound flashed in his mind, making him lose focus and let all the power flow through it again. Afraid of what the blast would cause, Izuku closed his eyes but the movement continued. As his punch connected, the teen opened his eyes and saw that everything was all right, no destruction or broken limb. Once he looked up, he saw All Might, completely intact, holding a smile bigger than his normal one. That was amazing, young Midoriya. You managed to control it in the first attempt, the hero said as he pulled the teen into a tight hug. Izuku could not process what was happening for many different reasons, but the main ones were the proximity he was having with his idol and why the attack had not done damage. Of course, he was glad the attack had not hurt the man, but he felt the power slip through his grasp. How did it not cause as much destruction as before? He needed to know if All Might had the answer. Stop, All Might. I did not control it, the introvert shouted, grabbing the hero's attention and making it put him back on the floor. What do you mean? You completely nailed it, All Might praised, but Izuku was not convinced. And no, I did not. I did feel the power getting weaker enough to control it, but before the attack I lost control and used it at full power again, he explained, confusing the buff man in front of him. So you're telling me that you used a 100% blast but nothing happened? The hero simplified. Why, yeah, he confirmed. But why did it not go full power then? The number one wondered as Recovery Girl approached, grabbing their attention. Maybe it was because you didn't want to hurt him, she theorized. You said you had lost control, didn't you? Yes, I did. What passed through your mind that made you lose your focus? Izuku was taken back with her question, but he knew it was for the best. Clearing his throat and taking a deep breath, he answered. I remembered of All Might's wound. I see. So you were worried that your attack would hurt me? All Might concluded, now understanding what was going on. Then maybe, because you had no intention on attacking, your body automatically set a power limit for you so you would not cause any damage to the me, the hero theorized as all dots in his mind connected. Do you really think that is what happened? Izuku asked. Well, the previous holder of One for All said that the quirk had already showed some weird interactions with its holder. All Might explained. Like seeing the figures of the previous wielders and power variations, but she never said a thing about power limits. If she said it or not, it does not matter. What matters is that we just found an easier way to make the boy control the quirk. Recovery Girl said, interrupting the number one's line of thought. You are right. Young Midoriya, let's try this again, channel One for All and attack me just like you did before, but this time, try to focus on the power limit your body is using. It seems that that amount is perfect for you. Okay, I'll try. And with that they repeated the process. Izuku charged One for All in his fist and attacked the symbol of peace, and just like before, he let the power flow freely before it connected and, just like before, the attack didn't deal the full power damage or break the green-haired teen's arm, but it was still stronger than a normal punch. They repeated the process a couple of times until they were sure that their theories were correct. After the third attempt, All Might asked the boy to stop and went back to his skinny form to relax a little. So I was right, One for All is creating a limit so you don't hurt anyone unintentionally. The symbol of peace concluded, sitting on the floor. Did you get the feeling of the power limit, kid? Recovery Girl asked, curious if they had any progress. Why, yeah, I think I do. And how much is it? The number one hero asked. Compared to a 100% blast, I would say my limit is 5%. The introvert concluded, looking a little sad about it. 5%? That's amazing, my boy. All Might praised him. But it is almost nothing. How can it be so good? Izuku asked, confused with his idle happiness. Do you think that someone that just got a tail would be able to do incredible tricks with it right off the bat? All Might asked, receiving a head shake from his successor. My master told me that most holders of 1 for all were only able to use 1% when they first controlled it. Even me, who managed to reach 100% almost instantly, could only use 1% at first, so for you to be able to use 5% right now really is some good news, the pro concluded, flashing a grin towards the teen. But don't get so happy about it, Recovery Girl exclaimed, grabbing Izuku's attention once again. Even if you can use 5%, your control still needs a lot of training, or else you may lose focus and release a full blast on someone. But of course, this will come with time. That's why we keep training every day. All Might said, getting back on his feet and extending a hand toward his successor. But for now, I think you had enough. Come back here tomorrow and we'll try to make your control more precise. We'll be waiting. Yes, sir, Izuku exclaimed, grabbing the pro's hand and shaking it happily. After their goodbyes, Izuku went back home and continued his day normally. Of course, his mother swarmed him with questions like, "Where were you? What were you doing?" and lots of, "Are you hurt?" The teen answered them with all honesty could, but keep some details in secret since he was asked to not tell anyone about the training sessions. By the end of the day, the introvert was more tired than normal. It must be because of Recovery Girl's quirk, he concluded. Now laid down in his bed, Izuku stared at his hand, thinking of ways to better control this sacred power that he was chosen to wield, but, as the exhaustion kicked in, the teen turned to the side and closing his eyes so he could get his such-deserved night of sleep. The next 2 weeks flew by. Every morning, the green-haired teen would have breakfast and go straight to UA to continue his training. In the first 3 days, the pros trained him on keeping the power under his safe zone. The next 7, they trained him to spread the power through his entire body so he could have freedom in his moves, the ability he called Full Cowl, and in the remaining days, they taught him battle basics that he did not have access to since he was deemed quirkless. But after all this time, after all the hard work, Izuku was ready. Now finishing to tie his tie, or whatever he was trying to do, the teen proceeded to lace his red shoes and open the door. "Wait, Izuku," he heard his mother call him. As he turned around, he saw her observing him in his new uniform that was composed of a gray coat with yellow buttons and some green stripes, a red tie and a black trousers. With a big smile and teary eyes, Inko looked at her son one last time and said, "You look great." Seeing his mother happiness, Izuku smiled back and passed through the door. "I'm off. How will my first day at UA be like?" Izuku questioned himself over and over again in his way to mention school. Being honest, he was both excited and terrified on the idea of his first day in the new school. This is UA that we're talking about, the hardest hero course in all of Japan. Just thinking of the giant piles of homework that he would have to do was enough to give him shivers. But it's not like a bit of paperwork was going to stop him. He was in his way to become the hero he always wanted to be, and not even 5 All Mights would be enough to make him give up. After all, he still had to keep his promise to the girl he met years ago. Now inside of the train, Izuku started to think about her. "I wonder how she is doing," the introvert thought, curious if she even remembers the promise. So much time has passed since their encounter that he would not blame her if she did forget, but he still wanted to know. Is she okay? Is she trying to become hero like she said? How does she look like after all these years? All these questions were inside his mind for the entire ride, not giving the green-haired teen a single moment of peace. It took a while, but the train reached its destination. After getting out of the station and bit of walking, Izuku was now in front of UA gates alongside the hundreds of students that also attended the course. It begins now. My journey to become a hero. Izuku thought while taking his first step and entering the mass of students that were walking through the gates. As Izuku got closer to the building, the more his mind filled itself with insecurities. But as he finally entered the school, something different grabbed his attention. It was hard to identify what it was, but something of a sky blue color moved in the distance. The introvert was caught off guard, but, after seeing the color that marked his childhood, all of his insecurities were replaced with happiness. Taking a moment to recompose himself, Izuku started moving again, now filled with determination. The green-haired teen moved through the hallways searching for his classroom, but the school was so big that he was having difficulties finding it. Where is the classroom? Izuku said as he ran through the corridor. Ah, I found it. Izuku exclaimed as he stood in front of the giant door with "1" written in the wood. Why is this so big? He wondered, getting a little curious. With a deep breath, Izuku grabbed the door and slowly slid it open. I hope I'm not in same class as Kakin or that guy with glasses. Izuku begged, remembering the things those two had done to make him so afraid of them. Once the door was open, Izuku took a peek inside, and the first thing he saw was enough to make him regret waking up today. Katsuki was sitting in his desk, with his right foot on top of it, as he yelled to the guy with glasses, that seemed to be trying to correct Bakuga's behavior. Please take your foot off the desk. Such action is insulting to the ones who came before us and the craftsmen who built it. The blue-haired teen said, waving his hands in a robotic way. Like I care. Now tell me, Fries, what middle school are you from? Katsuki shouted in return. I'm from Somei Private Academy and my name is Tenya Ida, the teen responded, only to make the explosive teen's grin get even bigger. Somei, huh? Aren't you a FNG elite? I'll be more than happy to blow you to bits. Katsuki said, challenging the glassed kid. Blow me to bits? Are you really aiming to become a hero with this attitude? Tenya said, taken back by the boy's response. As Katsuki was about to give another one of his disrespectful answers, both teens stopped at sound of the door being opened and the green-haired teen getting inside of the classroom. Turning around and looking at the origin of the sound, Tenya was surprised to see the teen he had repressed in the entrance exam in the school's uniform, not because he didn't want him to be here, but because he did not expect them to be in the same classroom. Walking towards the newcomer, who took a step back at the sudden approach, Tenya extended his hand and welcomed the new student. Hello, I'm from Somei Private Academy. I heard you before. Izuku said, cutting the boy with glasses in the middle of his sentence. Tenya, right? I'm Izuku Midoriya. It is a pleasure to meet you, he continued, now grabbing and shaking the extended hand. I see. It is a pleasure to meet you too, Tenya said, returning the shake with his own. Midoriya, must say, you discovered the true nature of the exam while I did not. I misjudged you. You truly were the superior candidate, the blue-haired teen said, lowering his head in disappointment with himself. Why, you mean the rescue points? Izuku asked. I did not discover anything. I only acted on impulse. I just couldn't let that girl get that curly hair. You're Izuku, right? A soft voice said, coming from behind the introvert. When he turned around, he yelped in surprise of what was standing in front of him. Ochako Uraraka, the girl he saved from the zero-pointer, now in Yue's uniform, being full of joy and giving the most heartwarming smile Izuku had ever seen. So you got in too. I'm so happy. I thought I wasn't going to see you again, Ochako said as she slowly approached her savior. Really? Izuku questioned. He just couldn't accept the fact that this cute girl wanted to see him again. Thank you for what you did before. Why you tried to share points with me. I'm really happy because of it, Izuku said, trying to stop stuttering, but it was of no use. How do you know that? Ochako questioned, confused on how the boy discovered what she had attempted to do. While all the scene was occurring, Katsuki stared at Izuku from afar, remembering the day they were called to the principal's office to be congratulated. After discovering that the introvert had gotten the hero course just like he did, he became really angry and, with help of his friends, he dragged Izuku to the rooftop, where he started his interrogation. But, different from all the times the explosive teen tossed the green-haired around, Izuku fought back, leaving Katsuki wordless. After that day, they did not see each other again, which gave the blonde enough time to understand what had happened. Someone helped you to get here, didn't you? He wondered, trying to understand the introvert's sudden boost of confidence. Coming back to the savior and the saved. I'm so excited. I wonder how our entrance ceremony and guidance sessions will be like. Do you feel this? If you came here to socialize, then get out of my way. A cold voice coming from behind the teenagers interrupted the brunette. As the teens looked to whatever said that, They were surprised after spotting a person with a dead-looking face inside of a yellow sleeping bag, laying on the floor and drinking a small box of orange juice in one sip. No one knew how to react to that except for Katsuki, that did not care. After a moment, the man left his sleeping bag, revealing his appearance. He was tall, with a badly shaved beard and sunken eyes, wearing a black long-sleeved shirt, black pants and a scarf composed of multiple gray strings. "My name is Shota Aisawa, and I'm your homeroom teacher." He introduced himself. As the man identified himself, everyone rushed to their respective seats, but it was for naught, since once everyone were in their chairs, the man pulled out gym uniforms from his sleeping bag, gave one for each student and ordered everyone to meet him at the training grounds. After changing and going to where they were instructed to, everyone was surprised by what the teacher had in mind. "A test of our quirks?" All students said in unison. But what about the entrance ceremony?" Ochako asked as her hopes were cut short. "There's no need for these futilities in a hero course." Aisawa said coldly. "You're training to become heroes, people that put their lives on the line to save others. Wasting time like that is simply irrational. Now, let's stop chit-chatting. Katsuki Baku, take a step forward and enter the circle," the homeroom teacher demanded, pointing to the softball throwing area. Doing as ordered, Katsuki entered the circle and grabbed the ball that was tossed at him. "How far could you throw the ball in middle school?" the dead-looking man asked. 67 meters, he replied. "Well then, try that again, this time you can use your quirk." Following the teacher's instructions, Katsuki threw the ball with a big swing, using a powerful explosion to propel it even further than normal, shouting what seemed to be his battle cry. "Dai!" As the ball flew up in the sky, everyone watched, surprised by the amount of power that the teen demonstrated. Izuku, on the other hand, looked at the teen with no expression at all. "Dai," he said, surprised by the word Katsuki had chosen to motivate himself. Once the sphere hit the ground, Aisawa pulled a device from his pocket and showed the distance the ball had flown to the class, whose jaw dropped at the big number that was written. 705 meters. "That's insane," a boy with spiky red hair said. "Knowing your limits," Aisawa started. "That's the first step to discover what type of hero you're going to be. All of you are going to do the same exercises that you did in middle school using your quirk to maximize your efficiency. After it is done, your scores will be compared and ranked to see who did the best and who did the worst." "Whoa, this is going to be fun," yelled a girl with pink skin and horns. "Fun, you say?" Aisawa said with a voice that warned the students that something bad is going to happen. "If you're thinking that the next 3 years will be filled of fun and games, I have something for you. Here it comes. The student with the lowest score will be deemed hopeless and expelled from this school," Aisawa said, freezing everyone in place. "Expelled? In our first day? You can't do that," exclaimed a small boy with purple ball instead of hair. "And who said that?" the homeroom teacher responded, shutting the boy's mouth in an instant. Here in UA, the teachers have freedom to educate their students in whatever way they deem more efficient. This also includes expelling anyone we judge not suited for the job. "So I can and I will expel the lowest score," he continued, sending shivers through the majority of the students. "Now let's begin the tests. I want to see what you're truly capable of," Aisawa exclaimed. With those words said, Izuku began to shake. He didn't know what anyone there could do. What if he ended being the lowest score? No, he would not let that happen. He won't toss all the training he did with All Might and Recovery Girl in the trash. He was going to pass, and he would do anything in his reach to do so. As they completed the tests, Izuku started to feel more comfortable with his results. Thanks to training sessions he had in the last 2 weeks, he was capable of using one for all without damaging himself, which made this test feel like a refreshing breeze. Thanks to the speed increase, Izuku was capable of finishing in third on the 50-meter dash, only below Katsuki and Tenya. In the grip strength test, he managed to finish in second, scoring an amazing 105 kilograms, and standing Bello Mizo Shoji, who was capable of lifting 540 kilograms, that guy was a gorilla. On the standing long jump, once again he got third place, losing to Tsuyu and Katsuki, who practically flew over the training ground. And now he was ready to throw his softball for the fourth test. As he pushed his arm back, letting one for all flow through his body. While in the middle of the movement, he felt the power shut itself down, making his throw become an average human's one. 62 meters, the machine said, making Izuku flinch. W? He questioned, even though he knew he would not get a response. I'm sure I used it. W, what happened? I cancelled your quirk, said Aisawa in an angry tone. As he turned to his teacher, he started to understand what had happened. The man had his eyes shining in a red tone with his scarf and his hair levitating in response to his quirk while he got closer to the teen. While observing his teacher's sudden transformation, Izuku spotted a pair of yellow goggles that were right where the scarf used to be. Connecting the dots, the teen said, "Why, you're the erasure hero, Eraserhead. It is true that you're doing well in the tests, but I want so see your full potential," he exclaimed, increasing his tone of voice. W, what do you mean? I'm giving it my all. Izuku defended himself but was interrupted as the teacher's scarf wrapped itself around the one-for-all wielder and dragged him closer to the erasure hero, forcing him to be face-to-face with the man. Are you really? He started. In the entrance exam, all the results you got with your current power is nothing compared to what you did. Are you really going to hold back? What if, because you refused to use your full power, someone's life was taken away? Are you really going to afford taking that risk? Aisawa asked, challenging the teen's ideals. Of course not. Izuku replied. Then show me what you can really do, or else I'll give you an instant 0 in all the tests and expel you, he threatened, making Izuku flinch in fear. Eraserhead's scarf and hair came back to normal as he deactivated his quirk to let the green-haired retry. You are free to use your quirk again. Do not make me angry, he threatened the teen again. Standing in the middle of the circle, the green-haired started to evaluate his options. If he didn't follow his orders, he would be expelled, and if he did follow them, he would become incapacitated and unable to continue, which would also expel him because he would not be able to get more points and stay in the competition. He didn't know what to do. In the middle of the students, Ochako, Ida, and Katsuki discussed what had just happened, although Katsuki's way of interpretation was a bit surprising. What do you think Aisawa said? Asked Ochako, who was unable to understand what the man had said to her friend. I don't know, but it looked like he was scolding him about something, said Tenya, who was in the same situation the round-cheeked girl was. He said that UA isn't a place for a quirkless loser and ordered him to give up, that's what he said. Katsuki exclaimed, surprising both teens beside him. Quirkless? Have you seen what he did in the entrance exam? There's no way he doesn't have a quirk. Tenya said, surprised by what the blonde had exclaimed. Don't f with me. He is just a quirkless loser that cheated to get in, he responded, still believing that he was right. Have you even paid attention to what he did in these tests? The boy with glasses said, not believing in the blonde's stubbornness. Back to our introvert. He had already decided what to do, he didn't have other choice. It was something he had never tried before, but it was his only option. Pulling his arm back once again, Izuku let 100% of his power flow through it and motioned to throw the ball. The world seemed to slow down for him in that moment. Slowly, he saw the ball move along with him, and as it was about to leave his grasp, the teen moved all the energy that was concentrated in his arm to his index finger, shooting the ball high in the sky, creating an enormous shockwave and lifting a cloud of dust in the process and forcing everyone to cover their eyes as the wind roared around them. Just how much power this brat possesses? Wondered Aisawa, who was also protecting his vision. Is this enough for you? Izuku asked. His voice was filled with determination. As the dust fell down, every student's jaw dropped with the state the training ground was. Izuku was standing in the middle of where the circle once was, and around him there was only shattered ground. His index finger was broken and its skin was completely destroyed, but he didn't seem mind the pain. Beep! Everyone heard the device make a noise inside of the teacher's pocket, bringing them back to reality. As Aisawa took the device out and looked at the number that was written in it, the machine that also informed how far the ball traveled beeped as well, and said the distance the ball had flown. 4,115 meters, it said. Everyone's jaw dropped even harder than before, Not only had he scored multiple times more than Bakugo, but also because he seemed to be just a shy dork with an average strength enhancement quirk. Of course, Ochako and Tenya weren't as surprised as her classmates since they had already witnessed it once, but this felt even more powerful than before. "Tell me, Teacher Aisawa," Izuku said, turning his head toward the pro hero. "Is this enough for you?" he asked again, making the Erasure hero grin in return. "This boy is going to drive me nuts," he exclaimed. "This is more than enough. Congratulations, kid. You did something though no one here would do. You exceeded my expectations." After hearing those words, Izuku wore off his determined expression and fell on his butt. He didn't pass out, but the energy he had used to throw that ball was many times higher than what he could endure. Breathing heavily, Izuku looked at the state his finger was. There was blood all over it and his skin looked like a burnt rag. If I had used any more power, I would have blown it out of my hand, he realized as he lifted his head to stare the sky. There was that color again. The same color that he associated with one of the best moments of his life. Just remembering those moments made him forget about the enormous pain his finger was making he feel, but, sadly enough, that moment of peace didn't last long. "What the hell was that?" Tetsugi shouted, dashing towards the green-haired teen at full speed while using his explosions to boost him forward. Izuku was frightened, but he was so exhausted that he didn't even try to get out of the blonde's way. Just as he was about to release an explosion in the middle of the freckled teen's face, strings of Aisawa's scarf wrapped themselves around him and pulled the blonde towards the teacher, stopping the explosive kid from getting any closer. He still tried to release the blast, but nothing came out of his hands, confirming that his quirk was cancelled. "Stop making me use my quirk, it gives me dry eye," the pro shouted, putting even more force on his pull. Understanding that he would get nowhere, Katsuki stopped resisting and relaxed his body. Noticing the boy's actions, Aisawa deactivated his quirk and let go of the teen. "Now, both of you, get back to the group, we'll be going to another area to perform the next test," Aisawa instructed, walking toward the area he mentioned. Doing as ordered, both boys rushed to the group of students, although Izuku still had difficulties moving. And while the introvert was being praised by his amazing demonstration of strength, Katsuki watched from afar, repeating these words inside his head countless times. "He is just a pebble in my path. He is below me." The remaining tests were difficult to pull off. Because of the broken finger and the energy he had used, his results could not be compared to the ones he got before. His stamina had been cut in half after all, but that did not stop him. He kept pressing on until he had done all of them and, for his delight, it had paid off. Once everyone had completed their tasks, Aisawa used the device to create a hologram that showed the ranking of the students, and Izuku's name was above anyone else's, standing proudly at first place. But he had to admit, once the teacher said that lowest score would not be expelled, he got really angry. "I almost lost a finger because of a simple lie," the green-haired teen yelled in his mind, blaming himself for not being smart enough to notice. But there was something else that needed our attention. From afar and through the campus wall, a cartoon-like face observed the first years for quite a while, even catching Izuku's display of power, and as the newcomers left the training grounds, the mysterious face sank in the wall, completely disappearing. Inside of the said building, this tall teenager removed his face from the wall. He was wearing UA's uniform, proving that he was a student. He was very muscular, even though his clothes didn't allow anyone to notice it easily, and had blonde hair arranged in a well-made cowlick. After taking a deep breath, the student started moving, directing himself to the third year's classroom. As he opened the door and placed the bathroom pass back in its original spot, although it was immediately removed from the spot so it could be used once again, he walked back to his seat where he was greeted with a timid voice that apparently was trying to mock him. Welcome back, Mirio. Is your trip to the bathroom paradise exciting?" the voice said, even though it was stuttering more than it wanted. "Oh, this is new Tamaki. Trying to improve your social skills? I've never seen you mock someone before." Mirio replied in a playful manner, wiggling his eyebrows to show that he had also made a joke. Hey, don't do this to me. It was her idea." Tamaki defended himself, pointing to the girl sitting by his left. "Oh, I admit, it was my idea," the feminine voice declared, putting her hand in the air like she was being arrested. But not getting out of topic? What happened that you took so long? She asked, getting excited to receive her response. Oh my Nijire, your curiosity has no limits. Mirio laughed while sitting in his chair. All I can say right now is, he smirked. We're going to have a lot of fun messing around with the first years. I was not prepared for what would happen that day. God, I'm so tired. Sighed Izuku as he walked away from the school in his way back home. After everything that happened that day, Izuku felt like he could drop dead on the floor at any moment. Not only did he use an overcharged one for all smash that almost ripped his finger from his body, but he also had been affected by Recovery Girl's quirk, which drained all the stamina he had left. As he tiredly walked toward the gates, the introvert felt a very familiar hand touch his left shoulder. How's your finger? Tenya asked, making the green-haired yelp in surprise. Oh, hi Tenya. It is okay now, thanks to Recovery Girl, he explained. I see. I'm glad nothing happened, the boy with glass said in relief. I was really worried, your finger looked pretty bad. It's okay now, I promise. Wow, I thought Tenya was scary, but he is actually a very nice person, Izuku though, realizing he had misjudged the boy by his side. But sure fooled us today, making us think that is each one for itself at the top. The blue-haired exclaimed, rethinking what had happened this morning. To think that our instructor would deceive us like, hey you two, wait up. They heard this soft voice call them. Turning around, both teens saw Ochako waving and running in their direction. You two are going to the train station, right? She asked, panting lightly. Oh, hello Infinity Girl. Tenya greeted, using her score at the softball test to call her. Call me Ochako, she corrected, changing her focus to the introvert. Is your finger better, Deku? She asked, unaware of what she had just called him. Deku? Why are you saying that? Izuku asked, confused on how she discovered his childhood nickname. In the softball throw that Bakugo boy called you that, I thought it was your nickname, she explained, surprised with his reaction. Why see, Kikeken says that is a way to call me useless, he explained, waving his arm awkwardly. A derogatory pet name then. Tenya concluded. Oh sorry, she apologized, bowing her head. But I kinda like it, you know. Deku to me sound like, do your best, she explained, pumping her fist upwards. Hi, I'm D. Izuku yelled with his face as red as a tomato, getting confused looks from his friends. But Izuku, it is an insult, isn't it? Tenya questioned, trying to understand the boy's actions. It's okay if she uses it that way. I don't mind. Izuku explained. Ochako smiled at the teen, noticing that he had created an exception just for her. Now together, the trio made their way to the train station, chatting about the day and what might come in the next. After all, they would have hero basics in the next morning. He did not notice, but throughout the entire walk, Izuku wore a big smile in his face. He had made nice friends in his first day at the school of his dreams. This could not get better. Now in his home, the green-haired continued his daily routine, eating his meals and starting his workout. When everything was done, Izuku rushed to his bed so he could have his deserved rest. I will need as much rest as I can get for tomorrow, he said in his head, falling asleep shortly after. Everyone was now in their seats, waiting for the number one hero to arrive so they could start their day. After a morning of normal classes and a relaxing lunch, all students were starving for some action to the point where they could badly hold their doubts to themselves, but after all that time waiting, their hopes were answered. I am coming through the door like a normal person. All Might boomed as he did the opposite of what he had said. Everyone was amazed, except for Katsuki, who just shrugged at the hero's entrance. They were really going to have classes with the strongest hero in the world. It was like their dreams were becoming reality. It is time, young ones, the pro started. The class that will put you through the situations that every hero deals with. Hero Basic Training. It is also the class that gives the most credits, he added. And today, we'll have a combat training class. All Might announced, showing the confirmation from the principal to give the mentioned class. And to do so, you need to be looking good, the hero said, pressing a button on the remote he took out from somewhere unknown. As the button was pressed, the wall on the left side of the room started to move, revealing wallets with numbers 1 to 20 written on their surface. Once all students grabbed their respective wallets, All Might continued his speech. All of your costumes were designed based on the quirk registry and the special requests you gave us before the course started. So wear your costumes and head toward ground beta. Yes, sir, the class exclaimed in unison. Now coming through ground beta's gates, most first-year students stood proudly in front of the number 1 while wearing their hero costume, but as All Might counted the students to see if he was allowed to proceed, he noticed that one of them was missing. Wait for me, a voice coming from the gates requested. After a moment, the owner of the voice revealed its appearance. I was Izuku now wearing his costume, which was composed of a dark green jumpsuit with black vertical stripes by the sides of his body, elbow, shoulder and knee pads, a pair of white and thick gloves, a white mask, his trademark red boots, a red utility belt and a hood with a pair of what seemed to be bunny ears. I'm sorry. I made you guys wait. Izuku apologized as he bowed to his idol. There is nothing to be sorry about, young Midoriya, the pro said, comforting his successor. Well, let's start the battle training. The pro began, pointing to a nearby building. What we'll be doing today is an indoor personnel mock battle, the hero affirmed, now guiding everyone the building he had showed. Most of the villain battles occurs outdoors, but the most heinous ones tend to appear inside buildings, so you'll be trained to deal with them in these situations. There will be 2 teams, the heroes and the villains. The villains are hiding a powerful weapon and the heroes were sent here to take care of it. What are the winning conditions? Asked a girl with a big and spiky ponytail. The heroes must capture the villains or secure the weapon, while the villains must have to protect the weapon or take down the heroes. All Might answered, now pulling 2 boxes from a nearby corner. And to choose the teams, we'll be drawing lots now. Let the battle training begin. With that said, all teens picked a ball from the boxes the hero had pulled out and the teams that were formed goes as follows. Izuku and Ochako. B. Shudo and Mizo. C. Momo and Minoru. D. Katsuki and Tenya. Mina and Yuga. Jairu and Denki. G. Rikido and Koji. H. Tsuyu and Fumikichi. I. Mashireo and Toru. J. Ijiro and Hanta. Hey Deku. It seems that fate has chosen us again. Ochako exclaimed with a big smile on her face. Why yeah, it sure did, he agreed while trying to hide his face. Once she called him, he managed to get a good look on her costume and it made his mind drift in various directions. She was in a black skin-tight bodysuit that had a vertical pink stripe crossing the middle of it, had pink bracelets and utility belt, big pink high heels and a helmet similar to Recovery Girl's, but this one's visor was bigger and curved. Just looking at her made him blush wildly. Okay everyone, let's see who will face who. All Might yelled as he pulled one ball from inside 2 other boxes he pulled out from somewhere else. One had the word hero written on it and the other one had the word villain. Taking his hands out of the boxes and revealing the teams that were going to face each other, all students shivered. Team A as heroes and Team D as the villains. This could only lead to chaos. Looking at each other, both Katsuki and Izuku shared a challenging expression towards one another. It was time to settle their differences. I'm going to love kicking your butt, Deku. Katsuki shouted, making small explosions pop on his palm. We'll see about that, Kaken. Izuku replied, feeling more determined than ever. Okay you two, let's hold the battle for once you're inside the building. All Might said, opening the door of the building where the fight would happen. The villains go inside first. The heroes stay here and wait for my signal. Me and the class will be watching you from the watchtower. And with that, the number 1 hero and the rest of the class walked towards the watchtower, leaving the 4 fighters behind. Good luck, Izuku Ochako, Tenya said before being dragged by the collar of his suit into the building. Don't waste time with them, for eyes. They're the enemy now. Katsuki ordered, pulling the armored teen. As the villains disappeared from the hero's sight, Ochako turned the introvert and asked, Do you have a plan? Okay heroes, it's time to start the training. Your battle starts now. All Might announced through the speakers. With a determined nod, both heroes entered the building as the timer started ticking. While venturing the building, the teens looked at every corner that they passed, trying to not get caught off guard. Now taking the stairs to the second floor, they discussing what way of action was more viable, but when walking through the main hallway, Katsuki jumped from the corner with his right arm pulled back, ready to unleash an explosion. In reflex, Izuku, with his mask now on, activated full cowl and jumped back, taking Ochako with him, making both heroes dodge the assault. "Nice dodge, Deku," Katsuki said as he moved out of the smoke his blast created. "I knew you would come for me. I was already expecting it," Izuku explained, lifting himself from the floor. "Then you're already prepared to have your butt kicked," the blonde exclaimed while charging for another attack. In blur of movement, Izuku appeared below Katsuki and threw the best punch he could get directly at the explosive teen's gut, sending him flying to the other side of the hallway, bouncing on the floor a couple of times. I did not expect him to be that fast. Katsuki, though, trying to understand what had just happened and shooting a threatening look toward the one-for-all wielder, but Izuku did not flinch. The green-haired teen just stared at the explosive teen with a threatening look of his own, remembering his conversation with Ochako before the training started. "Are you okay, Deku? You're sweating a lot," she asked, concerned if her partner was feeling well. "I'm all right. Just a bit nervous," he explained while trying to recompose himself. "Well then, what do you think they're going to do?" "I don't know about Tenya, but Kaken will come straight towards me." "You really think so?" she asked, not sure if his line of though was correct. "We've known each other since we were kids, and he still can't accept the fact that I'm here at UA with him." Izuku started, now looking to the floor. "But that doesn't concern me. His confidence, his strength, his quirk. He is superior than me in all these ways." "Deku," Ochako said, surprised with the honesty her friend was having. "But that will not stop me. It is only driving me forward," he exclaimed. "I'll prove Kaken that I'm not the weak kid he once bullied." Tension filled the air. The only thing that could be heard were the sparks that Izuku's full cowl was creating. Now in his battle stance, the hero wannabe began his speech. "You always start your assaults with a powerful right swing. I've seen and felt it enough time to know this," the teen said through his mask. "But this time around I won't let you toss me around like I'm your punching bag. I'll prove to you that Deku means, do your best." Izuku shouted, getting a happy smile from Ochako and an angry look from Katsuki. "You're shitting your pants and still wants to tell me this crap? You're pissing me off," the blonde shouted in return. "What's happening down there? Answer me, Katsuki," Tenya demanded through the blonde's communicator. "Just shut up and keep watching the weapon. I'm about to clean the floor with someone's face," the explosive teen shouted in response while grabbing the communicator, tossing it to the wall and breaking it. "So Tenya is protecting the weapon," Izuku thought, trying to formulate a plan. "Let's see what you're capable of," Katsuki challenged, using explosions to shoot himself towards the green-haired teen. With another right arm swing, the explosive teen attacked, only to have Izuku dodging the attack with his speed, leaving a trail of energy where he passed. "Go Ochako, I'll hold him off," Izuku ordered, getting a confirming nod from the female, who started to make her way up in the building. "Watch out for yourself," again, the blonde shouted, directing a left leg kick on the green hero's head. In reaction, Izuku rolled to the side, dodging the attack and creating distance between them. "Stop dodging and face me," Katsuki ordered, charging once again. In a blur of movement, Izuku was in front of Katsuki, releasing a punch directed to the teen's face, who blocked it with his gauntlets, but even blocking, the impact still passed through, sending him deeper in the hallway. How did he get so strong? The villain wondered, quickly getting back on his feet. But Izuku would not give him time to think. In another blur, the green teenager dashed, aiming a roundhouse kick in the blonde's torso, but he missed as Katsuki used an explosion to fly over him and, with both of his hands, release a powerful blast on the introvert's back, damaging his costume and making him fall on his knees. Not wasting time, Katsuki grabbed Izuku by the arm and threw him on a nearby wall with another explosion that destroyed the wall like it was nothing. Quickly regaining his focus, Izuku got back up and charged at Blonde, aiming a punch in his head. In the watchtower, all students watched the battle in awe as the rivals clashed. They were toe-to-toe, not giving a single second of rest to the other in the middle of many punches and explosions. "They're amazing. It's like they've been waiting their entire life to fight each other," exclaimed Rikido. "That's manly as heck," Ajiro said. "Looks like our training sessions are paying off," thought All Might, amazed by how viciously his successor was fighting. But the hero team is still in disadvantage. Fumigage started. They do not know where the weapon is, and if they keep fighting like that they'll run out of time. That's how it's supposed to be. In real situations you won't always be in equal terms with the opponent. That's why they need to work together to win the exercise. Right now, young Izuku is holding back young Katsuki so Miss Ochako can find the weapon, the pro explained, receiving confirming nods from his students. "But you have to admit, they're really fired up," Kyoka said while rolling one of her long earlobes. "They are fired up." Both teens were thrown away from each other as a result of their last clash. Their breathing was heavy, their arms and legs were aching from the pain of constant impacts, and it felt like one of them could drop dead on the floor at any moment, but they were far away from done. "You got a hell lot stronger, Deku, I gotta give you that," Katsuki said, slowly lifting his right arm. He wasn't charging at him, but that single move already put Izuku on edge. He was really tired and Katsuki wasn't holding back. If this continued for much longer he would lose for sure. "Deku, I found the weapon but Tenya is protecting it," Ochako whispered through the communicator, surprising the green hero. "That's great. Wait for my cue. I'll be there soon," Izuku said, making Katsuki even angrier. "So Round Face found the weapon? That means I have to kill you right now," the blonde declared, now with his arm extended toward the introvert. "That also means that I can't keep wasting time with you, Kaken," the hero said while increasing the energy that flowed through his right arm. "That's what we'll see. As you probably know, my quirk makes me sweat a nitroglycerin-like liquid from my hands, and these gauntlets that I'm wearing have been storing it since the beginning of the exercise," Katsuki explained while pulling a switch of his equipment, revealing a pin that was hidden inside of it. Izuku began to sweat. He knew where Katsuki was going and it would not end pretty well. "You better doggy if you don't want to die," the explosive teen said, yanking the pin and triggering the device. In the same moment, the device released a massive blast that destroyed anything that was in its path, but, thanks to the knockback it caused, Katsuki missed, sending the blast a bit to the side and only grazing the green hero, but it still damaged him badly. As the blast flied through the hallway, Izuku could feel his arm being shattered while his costume was being destroyed. After the attack died out, only a cloud of dust and smoke was left, stopping everyone at the watchtower from seeing what was happening. Weakly, Izuku tried to lift himself from the floor. His costume had its top right half completely burned, his mask was broken in half and had fallen on the floor, and his right arm was broken, and putting any weight on it made Izuku feel like he was being tortured. This is even better than what I had expected," Katsuki shouted while slowly walking toward the broken teenager, ignoring the smoke in his path. "Is that even allowed?" Izuku asked in his mind, afraid of the intentions of his childhood friend. "Deku, are you all right?" "I only heard an explosion then," Ochako asked, trying her best not to alert Tenya, but stopped due to the introvert's response. "Ochako, change of plans. Try to capture the weapon. I don't know if I'll be able to help you," Izuku informed her, now back in his feet. "But what about you?" "I'll be fine. Just win for us," he exclaimed, ending the transmission. "Still worried about Round Face? You'll die if you don't start paying attention," Katsuki shouted while charging at the green hero. Izuku tried to get out of the way, but he was too weak to move fast enough and ended up being hit with a full power explosion in the face, making he lose all the sense of reality he had. In another quick move, the explosive teen grabbed the introvert's arm and, using multiple explosions to gather enough power, threw Izuku on what was left of the wall, making him grunt in pain. "You are below me," Katsuki shouted as Izuku tried to lift himself from the floor. The green hero was both broken and confused, his head was spinning and just moving in general hurt him, But he couldn't give up, he had to keep going. Back on his feet once again, Izuku analyzed his surroundings looking for something that could help him and, for his luck, there was something he could use. Looking above, the green-haired spotted a part of the ceiling that seemed unstable. Any force applied on it would be enough to make it fall. While Katsuki sprinted towards him, he energized his left arm with one for all and hit the wall behind him, causing a chain reaction and making parts of the ceiling fall, creating more dust and stopping the explosive teen's assault. Using it for his advantage, Izuku merged himself with the cloud of dust, completely disappearing and doing his best to remain unnoticed. Katsuki, on the other hand, became angry with his rival strategy. Is he planning to run away? He thought while looked around, trying to find his opponent. As he searched, the blonde found something moving towards him and, in reflex, released an explosion on whatever it was, but as the cloud of dust around it disappeared due to the force, Katsuki froze. He had exploded a piece of wreckage from the broken ceiling, meaning that Izuku had used it as bait and he had fallen for it. Making his worries bigger, he heard a loud sound coming from behind him. Now desperate, Katsuki turned around, trying to stop whatever was coming, and was hit with full force by the green hero's left fist. "I will not lose to you," Izuku roared, spinning his body to finish his attack. 15% Detroit Smash, he announced as he threw the blonde into the floor, releasing a powerful gust that cleared all smoke around them and shook the entire building. Back on the top floor, Tenya was surprised by the sudden tremors the building was having while he desperately tried to communicate with his partner. "Katsuki, answer me. What is happening?" He shouted at the communicator but got no response. Now behind the weapon, Ochako slowly got closer to it, trying her best not to get the villain's attention. "I don't like this strategy or know what's happening down there, but this isn't just for me. Deku is doing his best, I can't let him down," Ochako thought, now in front of the weapon. With a quick movement, the brunette wrapped her arms around the machine of destruction, letting out a relaxed sigh and getting Tenya's attention. "Weapon retrieved," she announced. "No," the armored teen shouted, disappointed with himself. In the watchtower, everyone jaw dropped when Katsuki released that blast from his gauntlet and kept alert once the smoke cloud covered the cameras, and like that they stayed. Silence filled the room until a powerful gust cleared the camera's vision, allowing them to see the victorious Izuku standing on top of the defeated Katsuki, who was unconscious. On another camera, they saw Ochako holding the weapon between her arms. All Might, after seeing the results, pulled the microphone close to his mouth and declared, "Hero Team, why yins?" In unison, all students from Class A cheered with screams and applause as the match reached its conclusion. But before they could continue celebrating, Izuku began to shake. The hero stood there, confident, doing his best not to fall on his back in case the opponent got back up, but after hearing the announcement from his idol through the communicator, he felt at ease. It was all Izuku could think as he saw the unconscious body of his rival laying on the floor. After all these years being tossed around and receiving countless insults, he had finally proved to himself and to everyone that he wasn't useless, that he could win, that he could reach his dreams. There was no reason to stand up anymore. As he began to flinch, Izuku relaxed his body and let it fall backwards, but instead of feeling the hard cold floor, he felt a pair of strong arms embrace him, preventing him from hitting the ground. Slowly turning his head around, he saw All Might, holding a smile bigger than his usual one, muttering the words, "Well done, young Izuku." And with those words inside his head, Izuku passed out. When all students were back in the watchtower and Izuku and Katsuki were taken to Recovery Girl for medical assistance, the class began analyzing the match. "So, after everything being said and done, who do you think was the MVP of this dispute?" All Might asked as he noticed Momo raise her hand. "It's Ochako Uraraka, Teacher All Might," she announced, getting surprised looks from the students around her. "And me. But I did nothing other than sneak up on the weapon," Ochako exclaimed, unsure of why she was being praised. "And because of that, you managed to win the match," the girl started. It's true that the battle between Izuku and Katsuki was impressive, but it was driven from personal matters and caused too much damage to the building. If Katsuki were to use another blast like that, the building would have collapsed for sure. And Tenya was too distracted with the fight happening below him that he did not pay attention to your sneak attack. If he had stayed calm and paid attention to his surroundings, he could have abused of his speed to make sure that you would not touch the weapon, and you, on the other hand, stayed calm even with the chaos that was being unleashed below you and stuck to the plan. After her speech, the girl received dozens of amazed looks, even from All Might himself. She explained it better than I could ever hope to, he thought, surprised by the girl's analytical power. W said, young Momo. B, but just to complete your analysis? If young Katsuki didn't broke his communicator, he could have warned Tenya of Ochako's approach, furthermore stopping her sneak attack, and young Izuku let his guard open many different times. If he were to be in a real fight, he could have been killed in one of those openings. All Might added, I see. Thanks for sharing your opinion with us. Momo thanked, although she was the one who had said everything. Okay everyone. Now that this is out of the way, let's continue our exercise. All Might declared while pulling 2 balls from the hero and villain boxes. Once all battles had been finished, the students were released and allowed to go back to their houses. All Might, doing his job, went to the principal's office and gave him the recording of each battle he had organized and, shortly after, directed himself to Recovery Girl's office to see if his successor was all right. With the video files in his hands, the principal copied it, now having 2 discs that contain the footage. After getting of his chair, which was way too big for his size, he walked towards the 3rd year's classroom and knocked on the door. After a brief moment, the pro hero and 3rd year homeroom teacher Snipe opened the door, revealing the small animal and school principal to the class. I'm sorry for the interruption, but I would like to give this video file to Mirio, Tamaki and Nijire, the principal said, giving the disc to the homeroom teacher. Of course, Principal Nedzu, the pro hero answered, saying goodbye to his superior and turning back to his class. You heard the man, come grab the files. Snipe ordered, making Mirio get up from his seat and take the disc from his hand. Back on his seat, Mirio turned to his side and received an awkward smile from Tamaki and a curious look from Nijire. Are these the battles videos from the 1st years? She asked, letting her curiosity take over once again. Probably. After all, we were tasked to help them in their rescue training next week. Mirio said while carefully putting the disc inside his bag. Then let's watch it together after class, it will be fun. What do say Tamaki? Nijire asked, smiling towards the boy by her side. Sure. As long only the 3 of us go, he muttered, earning confirming nods from his friends. It's settled then. After class, meet me at the dining hall so we can analyze these. Mirio said, waving his arms in an excited way. I know you're the big 3, and all, but would you please stop talking and pay attention to the class? Snipe asked, although everyone knew what he truly meant. Sorry, Teacher Snipe, the trio said in unison as they went back to their school activities. Now in the dining room, all members of the big 3 were sitting in one of the many tables of the dining room, while Mirio places the disc in his computer so they could analyze the students that they would teach next week. Clicking on the first file, the trio watched as the camera footage of the battle between a teen with green clothes and a blonde with grenade gauntlets. I see. So this Katsuki kid can secrete nitroglycerin from his hands. A very powerful quirk indeed. Tamaki affirmed with Mirio nodding in agreement. It's true that he has powerful quirk, but his ego is way too big and he apparently can't hold his personal grudges. Mirio added while trying to symbolize just how big Katsuki's ego was with the movement of his arms. What do you think about this, Nijire? When both boys looked at her, they were surprised to see that the girl wasn't even paying attention to their conversation. She was just staring at the computer and observing the green hero while he stranded victorious on top of his unconscious opponent. Nijire? Are you even listening? Tamaki asked, although the girl seemed to ignore him. Countless questions were inside the brunette's mind. What is his quirk? How did he knock the boy out? Why is his hair so curly? But the one that appeared the most, and the one that made her look at him the way she was, never left her head even for a moment. Why does he look so familiar? Who should lead us? In the next day everything was back to normal. On parts. Although Izuku had been healed with Recovery Girl's quirk, he did not have enough stamina to completely recover, Therefore his body was still damaged and his arm was still a bit broken, but not that much, and Katsuki, after being defeated in the battle exercise, hadn't said a word to anyone or anything, and no one knew why he was like this, except Izuku. The explosive teen had never lost, especially to a person that he deemed useless. The idea that he was surpassed had hit him hard. But there was something else bothering everyone. In front of UA gates were an entire team of reporters and investigators, trying to get as much information about All Might as possible. He still is the #1 hero after all. His presence is enough to get the attention of thousands of people, even if he isn't working. And the press wasn't letting anyone breathe either. Every time a student tried to get inside the campus, they would surround them and make dozens of questions about All Might's teaching skills. Ochako, Izuku, Tenya, Katsuki, although he didn't even react to the people around him, no one was allowed to pass without answering at least one question from the reporters. But in due time, UA officials and Aisawa himself came to face the press and put an end to their endless questions, closing the main gates and stopping anyone else from entering the campus. Now in the 1A classroom, Aisawa greeted his class while pulling some papers from below his podium, preparing to start the day. "Okay everyone." He started. "Good work on yesterday battle training. I've looked over your grades and evaluations and I have some nits to pick," he said, directing his look to the silent teenager. "Katsuki, grow up already. You have a lot of potential, don't waste it on such irrational matters," the Erasure hero advised, but the blonde didn't react. "And Izuku?" He changed his focus to the green hero, who filched in response. "Learn to keep your guard up. If you were smart you could have stopped Katsuki before he unleashed that blast. One day this may cause you to get seriously injured." "Yes, sir," Izuku exclaimed, flashing a determined look. "Now that this is out of the way, I know it is very sudden, but..." All students shivered. Is he going to give us another brutal test? Seemed to be, though most of the class shared. "Today you're going to choose a class president," he announced, receiving surprised looks from the students. Such a normal school-like thing. Though while most of the class raised their hand, everyone wanted the job. In a normal school, being the class president would only give you a couple of mundane tasks, but in a hero course, that meant becoming the leader, a position desired for any top hero in the making. While the class yelled their why and what they would do with the new post, Tenny raised his voice and said it coldly. "Quiet down everyone," he said, making everyone lower their voices. "Leading the many brings great responsibilities, therefore the one and only leader must be chosen by election," he declared while raising his hand, showing that he also wanted to become the new leader. "But Tenya, we've only met each other. We didn't have the time to build any trust," exclaimed Tsuyu characteristics. "Not only that, but everyone will vote for themselves," Idru said, and he had a point. That's precisely why anyone who gets multiple points will be the best suited for the position. Tenya explained as he turned his head towards the teacher, who was entering his sleep bag. "Will you allow this, Teacher Aisawa? I don't care how you do it. Just do it quickly," he answered coldly. And with that, the class decided to use Tenya's idea and choose the president by election. After a couple of minutes of voting, the victors were decided. Izuku stood at first place with 3 votes and Yayoro Zumomo at second with 2 and the rest of the class with 1, which most likely were probably their own points. How did I get 3? Izuku asked, although no one answered. The only this that was listenable was a soft whistling from the back of the room. 0 points as I thought. This of the cold and harsh reality of this sacred position. Tenya said while kneeling on the floor. "What's your idea, dude?" "You're the one who suggested the election," asked Rikido, not sure of his classmate decision. "There's no need to worry, I'm sure that Izuku is the right one for the job, and Momo is very smart, I'm sure we can count on them," Denki said, receiving nod from the rest of the class. "So it's decided. Izuku as class president and Momo as his vice president," confirmed Aisawa as he left his bag. "Now that this is decided, everyone is free for lunch. Once the bell rings, get back here as quick as possible," he finished, releasing the class for their deserved meal. Inside of the dining hall, students from all courses devoured the food that was served for them, and in one of the tables, Ochako and Tenya waited for their friend to arrive. Izuku still wasn't fully healed, so he had to visit Recovery Girl's office one last time so all of his injuries could cease to exist. With his plate in hands, Izuku approached his friends and sat on the chair across them. "Are you okay now?" Ochako asked between bites. "Aside from the tiredness, I'm completely fine. Thanks for asking." "So, how does it feel to be the new class president, Deku?" she asked again while taking a sip from her juice. It's alright, I guess. I didn't receive any tasks yet," Izuku said before stuffing his mouth with rice. "I'm just a little worried if whether or not I can be class president." "Yes, you can," both Ochako and Tenya said in unison, surprising the introvert. "Your ability to make quick decisions while under pressure makes you perfect for the job. That's why I voted for you," Tenya explained as he finished his plate of curry. "So Tenya voted for me." Izuku though happy with friend act, but didn't you want to be president too?" Ochako asked, practically finishing Izuku's thought. "My ambition has nothing to do with if I'm suited for the job or not. I humbly made the choice I deemed correct." This last phrase of his seemed to intrigue Ochako, because right after he finished, she immediately said, "You sound like one of the rich kid with such a formal vocabulary." At the same time she said the word rich, Tenya shivered. "I don't like people to know, so I try to hide it, but indeed, I am from a very renowned hero family and I am the second son." "Do you know the turbo hero Ingenium?" he asked, receiving an amazed look from Izuku. "I know him. He employs 65 sidekicks at his office in Tokyo." "So you're—" the green-haired started, but was interrupted as the blue-haired coughed. "You're very well informed, but yes, he is my brother," Tenya exclaimed proudly. "Such a quick change. He leads people with an unwavering adherence to rules and regulations. It's my admiration for my brother that inspired me to become a hero," he said with pride in his voice, once again. "Though I'm not yet ready to lead, it was right that the role should go to you, Izuku," he finished with a warm smile in his face. "Tenya is just like me. While I have all might, he has ingenium." Izuku though, amazed by how similar he was to his friend. "Just like I." As he was about to start discussing with his own mind, a loud alarm rang through the entire building, putting everyone on a terrified state. "Security level 3 has been broken. All students evacuate in a orderly fashion," the room speakers said, making all students rush to the emergency exit. Everyone was afraid, but the 3 students from Class 1A had no idea of what was happening. Thinking quickly, Tenya turned around and asked a nearby student. "What's security level 3? he asked, waving his hands in his robotic style. "It means someone has invaded the school. This hasn't happened in 3 years. Now hurry up and get out of there," the student said while making his way to the exit. Following his advice, the trio got up from their chairs and entered the mass of teens who were running for their lives, but there were too many people for so little space. As they entered the crowd, they began being tossed and smashed all over the place, and for Izuku it was even worse. Since he was tired from being healed by Recovery Girl's quirk, he could barely stand his ground and try to get to a safer place. As he was dragged around, the introvert hit the window and managed to take a look outside. UA main gates had been destroyed by something and the press corps were swarming inside as Isawa and Present Mike stopped their invasion. Understanding the situation, Izuku tried to scream. "Everyone, it's okay, it's just the press," he said, but his voice wasn't as loud as he needed it to be. "I'm still too tired and no one is paying attention. It has to be someone else," Izuku concluded. Looking around as he tried to formulate a plan, he noticed that Ochako and Tenya were really close to each other. With a little bit of thinking, the dots in his mind connected. "Tenya," he called and was surprised to see that his friend had heard him even with his low voice. "It's just the press. We're no threat. You have to get their attention." "But how?" he asked as Izuku looked toward the girl by the blue-haired side. "Ochako, make him float." "All right." With a little bit of difficulty, Ochako managed to touch Tenya and turn him weightless. As the teen began floating, Izuku continued. "Now use your quirk to get to the emergency exit. You'll be able to draw more attention there." "Leave it to me," he nodded while pulling his pants to expose his engines. Activating his quirk, Tenya shot himself forward, but since he wasn't being affected by gravity, he went all the way spinning around his head. After a moment, he hit the wall and was now in front of the mass of desperate teens. "Say something. Make it short and concise." He though while taking a deep breath. "Everyone, everything is fine," he shouted, making all students stop. "It's just the press, there is nothing to panic about. We're okay." As the students looked through the window and saw the mass of reporters being repressed, the crowd calmed down. With everything back to normal, Ochako disabled her quirk, making Tenya fall safely on the ground, and Izuku got away from the window breathing as much as he could. God, this was terrifying. It took a while, but the cops arrived and the reporters were driven away. Everything had come back to normal and no one was harmed. Back in the first year's classroom, Izuku and Momo stood in front of the class, prepared to begin passing the instructions. So, we'd like to start choosing the new members of Student Council, but before that, I would like to give my position to Tenya Ida. Izuku said, catching everyone off guard. "But why? You won the election," exclaimed Hanta, unsure of his classmate decision. It's for two main reasons." Izuku started. The first being that I'm not good at public speaking in general, as you can tell. And the second one is that I don't feel like I'm ready for this position. I wasn't able to calm anyone down. But Tenya led everyone and controlled the situation perfectly. He said, putting himself down. But you were the one who told me what to do," Tenya exclaimed, trying to lift his friend's spirits. "Even so, I'm not as strict as you when it comes to rules, and if you weren't there to draw everyone's attention, something really bad could have happened. So I think you're the better suitor for the job," the green-haired explained once again, putting himself down. Tenya took a moment to think, trying to find the best course of action. After deciding, he got up from his chair and moved closer to his friend. "I'll accept your offer, but with one condition. You're still the superior candidate in my eyes. So until you feel comfortable with your abilities to lead, I'll hold the title for you, but once that day comes, this honor will be passed back to you," he demanded while extending his hand towards the introvert, who simply nodded. "If that's how you want it, I agree. Until then, let's cheer for the new class president." Izuku yelled, making the entire class cheer with him, with only one exception. Katsuki remained silent. Even with all of his classmates celebrating around him, he just stayed still in his chair, with no reaction. Izuku knew why he was like this, and he knew that he had to do something. As the day of studies reached its close, all students organized their materials and left the classroom, heading back to their respective homes, the rivals included. While the sun set on the horizon, Katsuki slowly walked to the gates with his dreadful silence around him. As he got near the exit, a tired voice called him. "Kaken!" Izuku called, making Katsuki stop moving. I wanted to talk to you about the battle training." Slowly, the explosive teen turned around to face his childhood friend, and saw the expression of remorse that he so much hated to see, especially when it was directed to him. "I really can't tell you much, but this power I have," Izuku began. "I got it from someone else." Boom, he dropped the bomb on him, and it didn't seem to have any effect since the blonde didn't even react. "This power was bestowed to me. I can't tell you who did it, but I felt like you deserved to know," he continued, looking to the floor and not noticing that the blonde began to shake. "It isn't mine, but I'll work my hardest, so one day I can look at someone, say that it is my own." He paused, trying to gather enough courage to spit the next words. "And surpass you with it," he finished, lifting his face and looking to his now sworn rival. But for his surprise, he had reacted, but not in a friendly way. Katsuki was shaking, his fist was clenched and popping small explosions from it. He was gritting his teeth and looking at the green-haired with pure anger in his eyes. "What are you saying? Got it from someone else? Not only did I lose to you, but you also searched for me, just to spit this crap at me," the blonde roared. He was really mad at the introvert's actions. "Listen to me, you nerd. If this power is yours or not. From now on, I'll get even stronger, to one day defeat you all, you hear me?" he yelled, making Izuku yelp in response. "Enjoy your victory while you can, because it will never happen again." And with that, Katsuki turned around and continued his walk back home. I think I brought him back to his old self. Izuku, though, still scared with his rival reaction. Letting a tired sight escape, Izuku turned back to the campus and, with one last look towards his childhood friend, made his way to finish the errands he had left. In front of the disintegrated passage stood Principal Nedzu, Recovery Girl, Midnight, 13 and Present Mike, analyzing the remains of what once was one of the school's impenetrable gateways. Do you think one of the reporters did it? Asked Midnight, not sure of how it happened. No. No reporter would be able to do such a thing. This was the action of some evildoer. Conclude Nedzu, now holding his hands behind his back. We better get someone to investigate this. It wasn't an accident. He paused. This was a warning. That day we learned what the pros are up against. The first week flew past our eyes. Before we could notice, we were having more difficult classes and tasks to fulfill and, of course, that also applied to hero training. We went from indoor battles to bomb disarming, outnumbered fight and so much more, all of that in 1 week. But today, things would get a bit more complicated for multiple different reasons. As Aisuwa climbed his podium, he announced, for today's hero basic training. This time, All Might, myself, another teacher and some special guests will be supervising your actions, he said, receiving excited looks from the students. What are we going to do exactly? Hanta asked, unsure of what to expect. Preparing you for disaster relief, from fires to flood. It's rescue training. Aisuwa announced as he showed the confirmation from the principal, just like All Might did last week. It sounds like another rough day for us. Denki said, unsure if he should feel happy or scared of the idea. Come on bro, this is what being a hero's about. I'm really pumped, exclaimed Ijiro, who could baldy contain his excitement inside himself. I'm not done. The erasure hero interrupted while pressing a button from the wall controller, revealing the students' costumes. It is up to each of you whether you wear your costumes or not, as most of them are ill-suited for this activity. But the training site is a bit far from the campus, so we'll be going by bus. That is all. Get ready and meet me at the gates. He ordered, leaving the students by themselves, who immediately rushed towards the wall to grab their equipment. This training will help me become the great hero I know I can be. I'll do my best. Izuku thought as he grabbed his wallet as well. And with that, all students left the classroom to change and start another important step of their lives. Now inside the bus and wearing their costumes, all students began chatting about themselves as no one had been properly introduced. Until one of them dropped this bomb. I'm Tsuyu Azui, but you can just call me Tsuyu and I generally say what's inside my mind. Izuku, she said while turning to the teen beside her. Your quirk resembles All Might's. As she finished her sentence, Izuku shivered. God, I'm in this school for 1 week and I'm already being discovered, he thought, scared of what the frog girl knew about him. Why will you think so? Izuku said, unable to stop stuttering. Now that you say it, your quirks do look alike, agreed Ijiro, making Izuku get even more afraid. You both get a lot stronger and faster. If you put it that, then all strength-enhancing quirk would be similar to his. The green-haired said, trying to make them stop comparing him with the number 1 hero. But it doesn't make it less awesome, the red-haired continued. My quirk only allows me to harden my body. I can be a good fighter, but it looks very boring. I think it is a really cool quirk. It is more than enough if you want to become a pro. Izuku praised him, surprised by how he overlooked his power. But don't forget that heroes also have to worry about their popular appeal. My naval laser is both strong and cool, perfect for a pro. Yuga praised himself, trying to draw some attention. If you don't blow your stomach up, that is. Misa said, snatching the blonde's time in the spotlight. He wasn't happy about it. If we're going to talk about strong and cool, then it would be Katsuki and Shoto. Rikido concluded, accidentally drawing the explosive teen's attention. Katsuki is too rude, he'd never be popular. Tsuyu exclaimed, making Katsuki grit his teeth. What did you say, frog face? He shouted, almost charging at the girl. What did I say? She mocked again. We barely started socializing and you already got mad at one of us. It just shows how shitty your personality really is. Denki said with a cocky smile, insulting the walking bomb. Oh yeah, Dun's face. How about I pound you to see if you can keep up with that shitty grin? The explosive teen challenged, making small explosions from his hands. Keikaken is being bullied. I guess that UA for you? Izuku thought, surprised with what was happening in front of him. Would all of you shut up? We have arrived. Isawa said, getting the students' attention. As Class 1A left the vehicle and entered the building, they got a good look at where they were going to spend their next 3 hours, and it could not be better. The Unforeseen Simulation Joint, or USJ for short, was a paradise for anyone who wanted to improve their rescue abilities. After all, it was built to fit any situation. Floods, landslides, conflagrations, whatever you need to practice, USJ has it. Now looking to the establishment's main gate, 4 different figures could be seen from afar, one of them being, "Oh my god! It's the space hero, 13. Izuku shouted as he rushed towards the said hero with Ochako by his side. But, can't believe it? We're going to have class with 13, the gentleman who does his best work in rescue scenarios. I love him. Ochako exclaimed while jumping out of pure joy. 13, where's All Might? He should be here with us. Isawa said as he approached the space hero. He said he had reached his limits in his morning commute. He answered while extending 3 fingers from one of his hands. Right now he is resting in the break room. 3. Izuku thought as he noticed the hero's communication method. Does that mean that he has already passed his 3-hour limit? He is the peak of irrationality. Good thing we brought them with us. Isawa said as the figures, that till this moment remained silent, smirked. Everyone, I'd like you to meet the top 3 students of UA, or as others call them, the Big 3. As he finished, all students from Class 1A looked at the mentioned teenagers, who stood proudly in front of the gate. Hello everyone. My name is Mirio Togata, but you may call me Lemillion. It is a pleasure to meet you all, he said while waving his arms frantically. He was wearing a plated white shirt with the number 1.000.000 written across it, blue pants with white stripes by the sides, red boots, gloves and a floor-length cape, along with a white helmet with a red visor. I am Tamaki Amajiki, but my hero name is Sun Eater, he said while cowardly hiding behind Mirio. He was wearing a white vest with a big white hood that could easily cover his entire face, a purple vest and mask and skin-tight long-sleeved shirt and pants. And I'm Nijire Hado, but my hero name is Nijire-chan, said a girl with a skin-tight bodysuit with some blue and green details, a pair of spiral green gauntlets, thick orange gloves and 2 spiral horns. But if you excuse me, here it comes. Why are you wearing a mask, Mizo? Is it that the latest fashion? She asked, uncontrollably jumping around the multi-armed teen. A long time ago. Hey Mina, can you break your horns? If so, will they grow back? The brunette asked as she played with one of the pink girl's horns, but before she could answer, the brunette had already jumped to another victim. Hates you, are you a tree frog? You aren't a toad, are? Nijire asked while messing with the frog girl's hair, but before she could finish her sentence, a very strong hand touched her shoulder. That's enough, Nijire. We don't want to scare the freshmen in our first encounter. Mirio interrupted, pulling the curious girl away from the students by her arm. But I still have so many questions, she yelled while trying to free herself from the man's grasp. She's a total airhead, thought most of the 1A students, completely surprised by how one of the top students behaved, but this wasn't important because while Izuku analyzed the heroine, something grabbed his attention. Her hair. It was of the same of his memories, a soft sky blue that reached all the way down to the waist. He was surprised. She looks so familiar, he thought, still amazed by the similarities she had with the girl in his memories. And on the other side, Nijire stared at the green hero while being pulled back to the group of third years. I still wanted to talk with him, she thought, sad that she wasn't able to talk with the boy that had been inside her mind all week. But before they could continue wondering about it, Isawa called, Okay, now that everyone knows each other, it's time to begin the erasure hero said before being interrupted by a weird sound coming from the fountain at the center of the establishment. As he turned around to see what was making this noise, he spotted a weird black mist that was rapidly growing bigger, and though the black mist ahead with red sunken eyes, blue hair and with its face completely covered by a hand crawled out of it. In an instant, the mist became a giant portal which several people were coming out of. They were carrying knives, guns, baseball bats, all kind of weapons that you could think of. Entering an alarming state, Aisua quickly pulled his goggles to his face and activated his scarf. "Everyone, huddle up and don't move," he ordered, but only received confused looks from the first-year students, while the space hero and the big three shivered. "What are those? Are they battle robots just like in the entrance exam?" Ijiro questioned, trying to identify what was coming out of the dark mist. "Nobody move. Those are villains," Aisua shouted, making all students terrified. "How can villains be here?" Izuku asked himself, scared with the idea that real villains had invaded school territory. 13. Protect the students. "I'll hold them back," Eraserhead ordered while jumping into the mass of criminals. "All Might isn't here," the man covered in hands said coldly, while looking to the crowd in the establishment gates. "I wonder if some dead kids will bring him here?" the villain said, making shivers run through all the students' spines. 13 and Eraserhead. "According to the staff schedule that I received the other day, All Might is supposed to be here," the Black Mist said. "If he is here or not, it doesn't matter to you," Aisua yelled while launching a string of his scarf at the head of Mist Creator, but it simply passed through him. "This guy will be harder to take down," the Erasure hero thought, evaluating his situation. As the hero landed, a bunch of smaller villains started surrounding him, but, with quick movements and precise attacks, any evildoer that got too close was taken down in an instant, some because they depended on their quirks too much or simply because they weren't on the Erasure hero combat level. "Yorji, I hate pro heroes. Ordinary villains stand no chance against them," the villain covered in hands said while scratching his chin. Back in the USJ gates, the class watched in amazement as their teacher fought evenly with dozens of villains, not giving them time to think. "Well, he can hold his own even when outnumbered," Izuku said, surprised by how strong Aisua really was. "This isn't the time to make analysis. We need to evacuate," exclaimed 13 while leading the students to the exit. But before anyone could pass through the door, the Black Mist villain appeared and blocked their path. "Greetings, we are the League of Villains," he announced while spreading the mist through the entire door. "Forgive our audacity, but today we've come to UA High School to kill the symbol of peace, All Might." In the same moment he finished his sentence, Izuku froze. "K kill All Might? Have they found a way to do so?" the green-haired wondered. "We were informed that he would be here today, but maybe his schedule was revised?" "No matter. My job remains the same," the mist wondered, now moving his haze towards the students, but before he could capture them, a blue shockwave hit him, stopping him from reaching any further. As the first years turned around, they saw the big three in their battle stances, but most of their gazes focused on Nijire, who was floating and with steaming hands. "You won't do anything to them," she exclaimed with a fierce look in her eyes. "That was close," the haze said, recomposing itself like nothing had happened. "Oh yes, the big three, we read about you as well? That only means that I can't keep messing around," he said as his fog grew bigger even faster, swallowing all the students and teleporting them somewhere else. "Be gone!" As Izuku was released of the dark fog, he found himself falling. Turning around, he understood what had happened to him. "I'm in the flood zone," he thought while falling in the artificial lake. "Think Izuku. That mist guy teleported me with his quirk. Bet these villains are here to kill All Might. How the hell are they going to do that?" he wondered while sinking deeper in the lake. "There you are," said a mysterious voice coming from beside the introvert. Turning around, Izuku spotted a shark-like mien, staring at him with threatening eyes, making the green-haired scream in terror, although only bubbles came out of his mouth. "It's nothing personal, kid. But say goodbye," the villain exclaimed while charging with his jaw open. But before he could bite Wielder of One for All, Tsuyu kicked him in the face while carrying what seemed to be Denki in one of her arms. Acting quickly, the frog girl wrapped her tongue around the introvert and swimming towards the surface, throwing both teens in a nearby boat. Once out of the water, both boys started coughing, trying to remove the excess of liquid in their system. After recomposing themselves, they started. "Tea, thanks to you. I thought I was fish food." Denki thanked, while spitting the last bit of water in his mouth. "No problem, but right now we have something else to worry about," she said, looking around the boat. As the teens followed her lead, they noticed that they were completely surrounded by villains with water-related quirks. Some had flippers while others had shark-like jaws similar to the villain that tried to attack Izuku. This sent shivers through their spines. How would they react to this? "What are we going to do now? We're completely outnumbered," Denki exclaimed, terrified with the number of villains around them. "First we need to calm down and analyze the situation so we can fight back," Izuku said, comforting the electric teen. "Fight back? How are we going to do that?" "We're in their territory," yelled Denki, still afraid of what would happen if they even got close to the water. "That's right where I wanted to get," Izuku said, receiving confused looks from his classmates. "Think with me. All the villains below us are suited for aquatic combat, which means that they were recruited bases on USJ's environments, but even with all this planning, they teleported to you here," he finished as his friends' looks of confusion switched to amazed ones. "So that means that they have no idea what our quirks can do. That's awesome. Now we have something that we can exploit," Denki exclaimed, quickly changing from his scared state to a motivated one. Back in the USJ main gates, almost all students have been scattered throughout the facility, only leaving Ochako, Tenya, Hanta, Mina, Rikido, Mizo and 13 at the gates along with the mist villain. "Mizo, can you confirm everyone's locations?" Tenya questions while the multi-armed teen created eyes and ears to track his friends. "They've been spread around but they're still in the facility." "This is great. But right now we have something else to focus on," 13 exclaimed while turning around to face the students. "Class president, your job is to run back to the school and report what's happening." "What? No, as class president I cannot leave my fellow classmates by themselves," Tenya yelled, not willing to let his friends behind. "Listen to me," 13 started. "The alarms haven't sounded and our phones aren't working, which means that someone is affecting it with its quirk, and since Eraserhead is nullifying quirks down there and the alarms aren't back up, the villains that is keeping them down is hiding somewhere, and since the outside alarms haven't been activated, the villains are only in the inside of the establishment. So sending you out is our best option," the hero explained while he and the students entered their battle stances. "Please, use your quirk to save us," the hero begged, sending goosebumps through the blue-haired teen. "We'll provide all the backup you need. Just go and call the teachers," Mina yelled, making drops of acid fall from her hands. "Aside the fact that you have no hope, you're still dumb enough to strategize in front of your enemy," the mist villain roared while charging at the teenagers. "It does not matter if you hurt us or not. You can't stop us," 13 shouted while creating a black hole in front of the villain. Meanwhile, in the main plaza, the members of the Big Three appeared inside the mass of villains while the Erasure hero fought them. Taking a brief moment to understand their situation, the third-year students entered their battle stances, prepared to help the teacher on holding back the smaller evildoers, but, as they defeated various ordinary criminals, the man covered in hands watched from afar with an annoyed look in his face. "With a pro and UA top students fighting, they stand no chance," he concluded while a black beast appeared beside him. "Let's show them what you got, Nomo. Okay, tell me what your quirks can do so I can formulate a plan. Mine allows me to increase my strength and speed, but if I overdo it I can hurt myself." Izuku started, receiving nod from his partners. "I can do whatever a frog can. My tongue can stretch to a maximum of 20 meters. I can jump really high, stick on walls and swim. That's pretty much it," Tsuyu said, while stretching her tongue a little bit. "And mine allows me to release electrical blasts from my body, but if I go over my wattage limit my brain activities are drastically reduced," Denki explained, while releasing a small spark from his index finger. "Our problems are solved," Izuku and Tsuyu though while nodding at each other. Quickly turning towards the electric teen, both green heroes got serious as they slowly moved closer to the blonde, who took a step back in fear. Because, what's with this look in your faces? Denki asked, completely terrified. I'm sorry, Denki, but this is for the better, Izuku said with an ominous tone, letting the power of one for all flow through his body to quickly grab the electric teen and throw him into the water. I hate you, the blonde yelled while falling in the water. Now submerged, the electric teen looked around and saw the group of aquatic villains charging towards him, prepared to attack. Your chum, one of them yelled while preparing to throw a harpoon. You might want to get on top of the boat, too, Izuku said while extending a hand to pull the frog girl to the top of the boat's cabinet. With a terrified shriek, Denki released the biggest energy blast he had ever done, electrocuting all villains around the boat and knocking them out. As the evildoers slowly floated unconsciously to the surface, a completely mind-numbed Denki emerged, flashing a thumbs up towards the green heroes. "We," he said, completely out of his mind. Understanding that it was safe to dive, the green heroes jumped and swam towards the coast of the main plaza while Tsuyu dragged Denki by the collar of his jacket. Back in the gates, 13 continued to SCK the black mist with one of his fingers' black holes, but the villain wouldn't just accept it. By creating another portal behind the space hero, the black mist villain managed to redirect the attack to hit its caster, destroying the hero's suit. How does it feel? To be ripped apart by your own power, hero? The villain mocked while 13 fell to his knees. All students froze as the hero hit the floor half dead. But they could not stop, they still had a mission to complete. Go now, Tenya, Rikino ordered while rushing towards the defeated hero. It hurt him to leave everyone behind, but he had to do it. Starting his engines, Tenya ran past the villains as fast as he could, aiming to reach the emergency exit. I'm not letting you escape, the haze yelled, creating a portal in front of the glass teen but was interrupted as Mizo tried to crush him between his arms but failed as the haze simply warped away. Go! You can do it! The multi-armed teen yelled while trying to grab the villain once again. You're not escaping! The villain roared once again, as he created another portal in the running teen's way, but this time, the portal disappeared by itself. Looking back, Tenya saw Ochako with her hands inside the cloud of mist that slowly began to float towards the ceiling. Dimin, she got my body. The villain grunted while flying up in the sky. I don't know why, but if you're wearing this metal plate, that means you have a physical body in there, she concludes while jumping away from the dark fog. Thank everyone. Your efforts won't be in vain. Tenya shouted as he forces the emergency exit's door open and passed through it. Looks like I failed, the villain muttered before warping away from the heroes in training reach. After the mist disappeared, Ochako clapped her hand together, releasing her quirk. Please be quick, Tenya. I'm surprised we weren't affected by the electricity, she exclaimed, wondering how that happened. Normally boats have insulating coating to prevent it from being damaged by lightning, but I still asked you to go to the top of it just to make sure. Izuku explained, clearing the girl's doubts. We! Denki yelled, instinctively following his classmates and continuing to flash his thumbs up to the nothingness. But what should we do now? Tsuyu asked, putting her index finger on her chin. Right now our top priority is to call reinforcements. We're outnumbered and we won't be able to fight them forever. Izuku strategized. If they came here to kill All Might, that means that they've found a way to do so. And since we don't know what it is, we should not take them easily. We should move by the shoreline and avoid the area where Teacher Aisuwa is fighting. This way we'll be able to regroup without drawing too much. Izuku, Tsuyu said slowly, interrupting the green-haired muttering. Look over there. She continued, pointing to the main plaza. Following the girl's finger, Izuku looked towards the plaza and froze in the same moment that he saw what was happening. A black human-looking beast stepped over a bleeding and unconscious Aisuwa, who had his goggles ripped apart and his left arm broken. Mirio stood in the distance. His costume was torn in multiple places, his forehead was bleeding and he held an unconscious Tamaki in one of his shoulders, while the villain covered in hands observed from behind the beast. Aisuwa and the Big Three were defeated by that monster. Izuku thought while shaking uncontrollably with Tsuyu doing the same. We. Denki yelled but was silenced by one of the frog girl's hands. "I'd like to introduce my friend to you," the villain covered in hands said, taking a step forward. Nomu, the bioengineered anti-symbol of peace. Bioengineered? So he is it? He is how they plan to kill All Might. Izuku concluded, getting even more pale than before. "What do we do? What can we do to get out of?" Thobu. A loud sound came from high in the sky, interrupting the green-haired thoughts. As the teenagers looked up, they spotted two blue shockwaves, one flying towards the black beast and the other to the villain with hands all over his limbs. The monster just tanked it, like nothing had ever hit him, and the smaller villain jumped backwards, dodging the attack. Looking a bit closer, they found a flying Nijire with steaming hands, looking extremely tired. Long-range quirks, one of the thing I hate the most, the villain exclaimed with an annoyed tone. Nomu, take care of her. In the same moment, the beast looked towards the bluinette and, in the blink of an eye, appeared in front of her, prepared to strike. He is incredibly fast, concluded Izuku. Nijire did not have much time to react. All she was able to do was to cross her arms in front of her body, using her gauntlets as a shield, but as the monster's attack connected, she discovered just how outmatched she was. The gauntlets broke like they were twigs and the beast's fist hit her arms, sending her straight to the floor in incredible speed, lifting a giant cloud of dust once she hit the ground. Nijire! Mirio yelled, afraid that his friend had been killed. As the Nomu fell back on the floor, so did the cloud of dust, revealing a damaged bluinette, laying on the shattered ground, almost unconscious. That attack had really hurt. You could see blood running down her forehead, her arms were seriously damaged and her costume had been slightly torn. But the monster wasn't done. Slowly walking in the girl's direction, the beast stopped in front of her and pulled his arm backwards, preparing to give the final blow. She tried to move out of the way, but her wounds would not let her leave that spot. Looks like the Big Three is about to become the Big Two, the villain covered in hands mocked while laughing manically. This is bad. Tsuyu cried, trying to find a way to help her. Is there something we can do? She asked while turning to face the boy beside her. But once she turned, the boy was missing. The only thing could be seen was Denki weeing in the background. Now die, heroine, the villain said with hatred in his voice. In a quick swing, the Numu attacked, lifting another giant cloud of dust and releasing a powerful shockwave that flew across the plaza. Nijire! Mirio cried, trying his best not to fall on his knees. This is what happens when a bunch of kids try to play heroes. The villain mocked, trying to destroy the remains of determination Miro had left. As the dust slowly fell down, everyone's jaw dropped once the scene was revealed. There was no sign of the heroine, no blood, no remains. Nothing. The only thing that could be seen was the Nomu with his arms stuck on the floor, trying to remove it and free himself. Are you okay, Nijire? A soft voice asked in the distance. Looking towards the origin of the sound, Mirio's jaw dropped even harder. Izuku stood there, holding Nijire close to him in his arms, wearing a determined look in his face, but somehow he felt different. Slowly opening her eyes, Nijire was surprised to see that C was still alive. How did I? She thought, trying to understand what had happened, but as she looked around, trying to find the reason, she noticed she was being carried by someone. Fully opening her eyes, the bluinette was caught off guard. The boy she so badly wanted to talk with? Izuku Midoriya was holding her in his arms while looking at her with a comforting smile, but he looked different than the battle video she had seen before. The sparks his body emanated were thicker than normal, his curly dark green hair was now slightly lighter and spikier, and his eyes' irises were also emanating sparks. He felt stronger. There is no need to worry anymore. I'll save you, Izuku affirmed while turning around to look at the villains. I cannot stay like this for much longer. I have to make this count, he thought, feeling his bones cracking and his muscles fibers being ripped apart. 50% full cowl. Prepare yourselves, villains. You won't go any further. This is all or nothing, were the words that roamed inside the introvert's mind. Their situation was dire. They're facing a beast created to kill the symbol of peace himself, They had multiple injured victims and reinforcements were nowhere to be seen. This was his only choice. Just running to save Nijire was enough to crack my bones, and keeping the percentage so high slowly destroys my body. But I have to do it, I have to save everyone. Izuku motivated himself, keeping his gaze locked on the villains in front of him. Judging by my current state, I only have about 1 minute and 30 seconds before I lose the ability to move. I'll have to make these moments feel like an entire hour. As the green-haired strategized, Nijire just stared at her savior in awe while the boy held her in his arms. Why does he make me feel so safe? The brunette wondered while instinctively pulling herself closer to the boy's embrace. As Izuku stood strong in the villain's path, a portal appeared beside the villain covered in hands, revealing the mist evildoer that apparently brought bad news. I have returned, Tamura Shigaraki, he announced, revealing the villain's true name. Kurogiri, have you killed 13? He's incapacitated, but that's not the problem. There were some kids that I couldn't warp away and one of them has escaped. The mist explained. I swear, if you weren't our ticket out of here I would have already turned you to dust. Tamura muttered with anger filling his voice. So, we have reinforcements coming? That's great. Izuku celebrated while keeping his strong composure. We don't stand a chance against a bunch of pros. It's game over, the villain with hands growled, realizing that his efforts had been for naught. We better leave before they arrive, but until then. He paused. Let's leave a few dead kids. To hurt the symbol of peace's pride. Starting with that one. Tamura exclaimed, pointing his finger towards the girl in Izuku's arms. You won't lay a single finger on her, the introvert roared, tightening his grip on the girl's body. Of course. I'm not the one that's going to do the dirty work. That's why Nomu is here, he declared as the beast took a step forward. You have your orders. Kill that girl. With the command given, the black beast charged at the green hero, prepared to strike anything in his way. Hold on tight. Izuku shouted as the sparks from his body became more erratic. In a quick swing, the Nomu attacked, lifting a cloud of dust where Izuku was and releasing a powerful blast of wind, but, in the blink of an eye, the green hero was behind the monster, untouched, as the dust quickly fell down, revealing that the monster's arm was stuck on the floor. Don't mind the pain. Just keep moving. The green hero yelled in his mind as he and the girl disappeared. In multiple blurs, Izuku moved through the plaza and one by one, picked Tsuyu, Denki, Tamaki and Isawa and brought them to where Mirio was, placing them safely on the floor. Everyone just watched in awe. Even Denki, that was slowly recovering his neural functions, was surprised. Mirio, can you move? The introvert asked while watching the beast behind him. My arm is a bit damaged, but it is nothing I can't handle, he explained, shaking his damaged arm to demonstrate that it was still moving. But I need you, Tsuyu and Denki, to take everyone away from here, Izuku ordered, placing Nijire in the peerless hero's arms. What? We can't leave you alone with that thing, Tsuyu exclaimed, but the introvert silenced her, placing their unconscious teacher in her shoulder. I'm the only one that can keep up with that thing's speed. Keep the villains occupied so you all can leave safely, he exclaimed, placing Tamaki in the electric teen's shoulder. Buyuti you can't eat fiati them aloen? Denki tried to say while he held Tamaki. The green hair did not respond. Victory had never been in Izuku's plan. He knew he couldn't win. That thing was just as fast and strong as he was, and his clock was ticking. Even if somehow he managed to defeat the Nomu, he would still have to fight the other two, and with most of his body falling apart, it would for sure be impossible. Mirio was in a tough spot as well. From one side, he wanted to help the green hero and face the villains together, even though he knew he wouldn't be of much help. The beast they were facing was way too fast, faster than his reaction time. That's how he got his wound in the first place. But on the other side, they needed to rescue the injured in their arms. It was one of the most difficult decisions he was ever forced to make, but at the sound of ground being broken, all heroes in training became alert. Quickly turning around, Izuku caught the beast's hands, stopping it from attacking anyone behind him while the wind roared around the two. Go! I'll hold them back. the green-haired shouted while trying to push the black monster back. Without other option, Mirio started moving towards the gates as fast as he could while trying not to hurt the girl in his arms. Understanding the situation, both first years followed the peerless hero, leaving the introvert behind. Once they were far enough, Izuku slid between Nomu's legs and grabbed one of them, making he lose his balance and fall with his belly on the floor, and with a powerful spin, threw the beast away from the teenagers and directed to the pair of villains. The black mist simply warped away while Tamura jumped to the side. Readjusting himself mid-flight, the Nomu sank his hands on the floor, slowly stopping and beginning another assault, and he wasn't alone. While the heroes moved through the plaza, the warping villain appeared in front of them prepared to send them to their doom, but to his surprise, Izuku was already expecting it. Looking to his left, the villain spotted the one-for-all wielder with his fist already pulled back and prepared to strike. "I said you won't lay a finger on them," he roared, releasing his attack at the fog villain. With his arms swing, a powerful blast of wind was sent at the evildoer, blowing most the haze that covered him away and revealing his real body that was composed of a white social shirt with a gray waistcoat and tie over it, black pants and shoes, along with 5 metal plates that covered his neck. This image had caught the introvert off guard. So he has a physical body, Izuku concluded. Not wasting time, Izuku turned around and locked his gaze on the Nomu that was rapidly getting closer, but at 50%, there weren't limitations. Creating propulsion force out of pure strength, Izuku shot himself towards the monster while moving faster than a bullet, grabbed the Nomu's arm and, with another spin, threw him away again, but this time he aimed higher to make sure the beast would not use the ground like he did last time. "Interesting," Tamura muttered from afar. The villain covered in hands hadn't moved at all, he just stood there analyzing the teen's performance against the artificial living being and the mist villain, and to his surprise, the green-haired was whining. "I'm losing my patience. Nomu, finish this already," Tamura ordered, and without a second of hesitation, the beast obeyed. Copying Izuku's movements, the Nomu shot himself at the running teens, acting as a living missile. In reaction, the green-haired slammed the ground below him, creating a massive stone pillar that stopped the beast's assault. 1 minute remaining, Izuku counted while trying to ignore the pain that his recent move had caused. Not giving him time to think, Kurogyari teleported next to Tsuyu, trying to warp her and Aisuwa away from the group of heroes, but at the same time his fog started moving towards the girl, something pulled him back. Turning around, he spotted Izuku holding him by one of his metal plates and smashing him against the floor with immense strength. "Keep moving," Izuku ordered while pulling his fist back, prepared to knock out the villain below him, but was stopped as a black strong hand grabbed him by the arm. In reaction, the introvert swung his other arm and attacked the Nomu directly in the head while Kurogyari warped away. As his fist connected, Izuku was surprised to see that it had done nothing to the enemy, who prepared to attack with his free hand. Moving quickly, the green-haired hopped, dodging the attack and giving him enough room to plant his feet on the monster's chest and kick it with full force. The strike pushed him back, allowing the green-haired to release his arm, but it didn't cause any damage. "How can this guy tank me at 50%? Izuku asked, not noticing that he was yelling instead of thinking his question. "Nomu has shock absorption, your attack will do nothing against him," Tamura explained with a malicious grin in his face. "Shock absorption? Then he is this fast and strong naturally?" Izuku wondered, frightened with the sudden revelation. "No matter, I still have 30 seconds. While Izuku held the villains back, Mirio, Tsuyu and Denki crossed the plaza, dragging the injured heroes along with them, but as Denki slowly recovered from having his brain fried, he asked, "Are we leaving Izuku behind?" He asked, although his ability to talk hasn't fully recovered. "It is our only option. He's the only one capable of standing up to that Nomu," Mirio explained while continuously running forward. "BB, but you're one O of the B big T3, right? CC, can you not help him?" With the question in the air, Mirio simply became silent. He felt so useless right now. A freshman was willing to give his own life for the sake of others while all he could do was run away. He knew he wasn't as fast as the green-haired or the black beast, but he could still try. Aren't heroes supposed to jump into the fray and save the day? But sadly for him, this was out of his reach. I know what that kid can do. I saw him throwing that softball. If he has that kind of power, he is the only one here capable of dealing with that monster. Mirio started, I'm not fast enough to react to that thing, and that shock absorption makes my attacks useless. The only thing that I can do now is make sure that everyone makes out alive. It hurts me, but that's all I can do right now. And Mirio, Nijire muttered tiredly, I can see someone right there over the gates. Tsuyu said, pointing to her classmates standing near the staircase. Then let's speed up, Izuku won't be able to hold them back forever. Mirio ordered while increasing his running speed, with the first years doing the same. Breaking the silence between the green hero and the evildoers, Kurogiri warped back to Tamura's side with most of his mist coating still being restored. I'm sorry Tamura, I was not able to go through him. Kurogiri apologized, standing tall beside the villain with extra hands. Once again you disappoint me. If I didn't need your quirk you would be dead where you stand. Tamura threatened, sending an ominous look toward his ally while scratching his chin. But this time I'll forgive you. That kid is, indeed, powerful. He explained his own twisted way of showing remorse. Izuku had already set him off. Not only was he standing in his way, but he also seemed to think that no matter what Tamura threw at him, he would be able to deal with it, and it was making the villain with extra hands really mad. It was time to finish this. I'll give it to you, kid. You did put up a good fight. Tamura started, flashing a malicious grin at the hero wannabe. But I've already seen all you can do, and since I'm running out of time I think we should put an end to this. Nomu, no more handicaps. Kill him. In no longer than an instant, the Nomu appeared in front of Izuku with both of his arms pulled back and with an extremely intense killer intent. The moment Izuku noticed the monster's movement he knew. No more holdbacks. Pumping 100% through his arms, Izuku stopped the beast's strike, releasing a ridiculously powerful blast of wind, shaking the whole main plaza and starting a life-or-death strength contest. Just like his last uses of 100%, his arms broke the same moment the impact was released, but this time he could not retreat. If he flinched, even if just for a second, his death would be sure. The monster wasn't holding back anymore, and it was obvious, even with the green-haired at full power, the Nomu could still push him back with no apparent difficulties. Izuku needed to do something, and he needed to do it quick. Guys, we're here. Denki shouted now with his brain back to normal. As the electric team called, all students at the top of the staircase turned around and, seeing the state their friends were, rushed towards them in order to help. Oh my god, what happened? Mina asked, terrified with how beaten up her teacher was. The villains have a type of super soldier, that's how they plan to kill All Might. Tsuyu explained while placing Aisawa in Rikido's shoulder. We were able to escape, but that thing is way too powerful for us to defeat. We need reinforcements. Tenya is on his way to the school and call the teachers. We just have to stall until he arrives. Affirmed Hanta while helping Denki carry Tamaki. As the now reunited group of teenagers climbed the stairs and placed the wounded beside the space hero, they felt the ground shake and a massive gust fly by, shaking their bodies and forcing everyone to protect their faces from the wind. What is this? Asked Mina, trying her best to stay on her feet. Look over there, exclaimed Hanta as he pointed at the main plaza. Once everyone looked at the source of such powerful gale, they saw the black beast clashing with the powered-up green hero, who was slowly losing his grip and being forced to his back. The wind roared and the floor around them seemed to shatter just from the sheer strength they were showing. Oh no, Deku is going to die, yelled Ochako. We need to help him. But how? We can't even get close to them, exclaimed Rikido. There's gotta be something. Denki shouted, trying to formulate a plan of approach. We can't do anything right now, none of us has the strength to do anything, and with this wind pressure we would be blown off in an instant, explained Mirio while supporting himself on one of the gate's pillars. But we can't let him die like this. There has to be something we can do. Ochako yelled once again while trying to hold the tears back. With the attention directed to the clash in the plaza, No one noticed that Nijire had slowly lifted herself from her place between the injured teachers and moved through the mass of first years and appear by Mirio's side, holding herself on his shoulder and catching him by surprise. And Nijire? You can't be here, you need to? Izuku. When Nijire said with difficulty, interrupting the peerless hero mid-sentence. Everyone just looked at the heroine with surprise in their eyes. She was badly injured, to the point where it was even hard for her to talk. Yet there she was, supporting the teenager that was willingly sacrificing himself for the sake of others. No one knew why. Nijire herself wasn't sure why she was rooting so badly for the introvert, but after seeing his actions, hearing his words, feeling his embrace, she felt like it was her obligation to be there for him and make he keep going. It was like something from the depths of her heart made her feel that way. He will win. He promised to save us. The brunette continued, never removing her gaze from the green hero. Everyone paused. They didn't know how to react. Even if he promised to save them, how would he defeat something that could not take damage? With the wind being the only that could be listened, Ochako broke the silence between the students. You can do it, Deku, she shouted, following the top students' actions. They were hesitant, but after a moment, everyone was following Ochako's lead. Don't give up now, yelled Mirio. We're counting on you, screamed Hanta. Knock them, Dean, shouted Mina. Go get them, screamed Denki. You're our last hope, yelled Rikido. While Izuku fought for his and his friends' lives, Tamura slowly moved closer to the competitors with a malicious grin visible in his face. Well, looks like they still believe in you, Mr. Hero. He mocked while the green-haired struggled against the black beast. Too bad they don't know it is useless. Finish him. With the new orders, the Nomu increased the force in his arms, and with one last push, Izuku lost his grip. I'm sorry, was all the teenager managed to say before being smashed on the ground and officially defeated. All teenagers just stared in terror. Izuku had been killed in front of their eyes, and they could do nothing about it. Tears fell from their eyes while Nijire fell on her knees. Just couldn't take it. That boy had saved her, he had risked his life to protect her and ended paying the ultimate price. Even though Izuku was the one who had been killed, she was the one feeling defeated. With water falling from her eyes, Nijire gathered all the strength she had left and did the only thing she could. Izuku, she cried, letting her voice echo through the entire plaza. Now that this brat is out of the way, let's finish what we started. Kill all of them. Tamura ordered as he pointed at the teenagers at the establishment's gates. Once again following the commands, the Nomu glared at his targets with a killer intent that made all the students shiver, but as the seconds passed, the monster was not moving. Tamura did not understand. What are you waiting for? Kill them, the villain repeated, but, once again, the Nomu did not move. It remained knelt down, with its arms dug on the concrete and continuing to glare at the teenagers. Everyone was confused. Was the monster disobeying its master on purpose? No one knew why, but as the villain continued to give orders to the unmoving beast, another tremor occurred. I won't let you kill them, a strong voice said from below the Nomu. As both heroes and villains looked at the source of the sound, green sparks were being released from under the monster. Followed by a powerful gust that blew the villain covered in hands away, Izuku emerged from the crater, with their hands still connected, pushing the anti-symbol of peace back with no difficulties and quickly standing on his feet once again, but he was looking different. His usual curly dark green hair was now vibrant and spikier. The sparks his body emanated were twice as thicker than before. His eyes also emanated sparks, and his costume was slowly being ripped apart. He looked unbeatable. I will save everyone, Izuku shouted as he continued to push the black monster back without breaking a sweat. Even if it wasn't holding back anymore, the Nomu was no match for this new form that the green-haired was showing. Step after step Izuku pushed him back, causing various tremors and releasing powerful gusts with each one that forced all spectators to protect themselves, even blowing Kurogiri's covering haze away, but it did not matter. It was time to finish this. With one quick move, Izuku released the beast and grabbed both of its wrists with his left hand, crushing them. Pulling his right arm back, green sparks began to completely cover the teenager's limb, making it look like it was made out of pure energy, and with one mighty roar, the green-haired attacked. Overcharged Detroit smash. With this extraordinary attack, the beast was sent rocketing across the establishment with a powerful gale following it. It flew over the plaza and the flood zone, destroying the boat and lifting the water from the artificial disaster zone, hitting the dome wall and creating a massive dent on it. Everyone just stared in awe as the introvert's assault came into a close. Slowly the wind stopped and the water fell back to the flood, allowing the spectators to see the result of such powerful strike. The monster was unconscious. His beak-like mouth was cracked. The top right part of his chest was completely obliterated but was slowly regenerating, and his eyes were now just a pair of white empty orbs on the monster's face. The Nomu had been defeated. Ochako said slowly, still surprised with the sheer force that her classmate had just displayed. He won, yelled Mina, hopping out of pure happiness. Good one, Izuku, exclaimed Hanta while bumping his fist with Rikido. That's how heroes do it, shouted the sugar man. Nijire just stared in amazement. Izuku had just won an impossible battle. He outdid everyone's expectations. But something was off. Looking at the teen from afar, the Bluenet noticed that he was not moving. He was in the same position as when he punched the monster, and like that he stayed, not moving a muscle, only breathing. But while the heroes cheered for their victory, the villain became angry at his defeat. Impossible, roared Tamura while glaring at the green hero with rage in his eyes. Nomu was created to kill All Might. There's no way that he would lose to a brat like you. You cheated. With his last cry, Tamura began his charge with Kurogyri right behind him. He was going to kill that child even if it was the last thing he was going to do. But even with the pair of evildoers sprinting at his direction, Izuku did not respond. Why is he not moving? Asked Mina, not understanding the situation that the introvert was at. He told us that he hurts himself if overuses his quirk, explained Tsuyu as her eyes widened in terror. He must have passed out. Oh no, they're going to kill him, yelled Denki. Hold Nijire, ordered Mirio while placing the Bluenet in Ochako's arms and beginning his sprint to save the green-haired. But before he could permeate through the floor, a loud boom came from behind the teenagers. In an instant, a yellow blur passed through them and reached Izuku and grabbed him, moving the boy out of the villain's attacks. Worry not, because I am here, the figure announced, showing his identity and revealing to be All Might, now holding Izuku in his arms. And I am not alone. Moving through the mass of students, various pro-heroes along with Tenya stepped out of the gates and announced their arrival. Class President Tenya Ida reporting for duty, he shouted as the teachers began their operation. There are 3 students at the mountain, 2 at the landslide, downpour and collapsed zones, and 1 at the conflagration, informed Hound Dog as he sniffed the air and felt the students' scent. Ectoplasm, create clones and send them to help the students, ordered Nedzu from Vlad King's shoulder. Roger, said Ectoplasm while doing as told. No, and Tamura cried as the pros began moving out and helped the students, making the villain's invasion crash down. It is over, villain. This ends now, exclaimed All Might as he looked at the pair of villains in front of him. This is far from over. You may have one today, but next time I'll be the one to give the last laugh. I'll be the one to kill you, Tamura shouted while signalizing to Kurogyri to warp them away. As the dark haze began enveloping the villain covered in hands, All Might quickly, but carefully, placed Izuku on the floor and rushed at the escaping evildoers, but as he was about to grab the blue-haired villain, he and the dark fog disappeared, leaving him to grab the air that filled the area where the evildoers once stood. Demenit. All Might grunted as he failed to capture the responsible for the invasion. Looking back at his successor and once again holding him in his arms, the number 1 hero was taken back by the state he was. His arms were completely shattered, his costume was torn, and there was blood all over the teenager's body. He was seriously damaged. Don't worry, young Izuku. This chaos is over. All Might comforted him while pulling his successor to a soft hug while trying not to hurt the green Ahired even more. And with the pros' arrival and the villain's escape, the hell known as the USJ invasion had finally ended. These were the results. After the pros arrived, All the smaller villains were taken down and the Nomu was captured. All students were rescued to receive due care and, happily, most of them were left unharmed. Aside from some bruises and cuts, most of them did not suffer any irrecoverable damage, but there were exceptions. Izawa and Tamaki had multiple broken limbs but, thankfully, nothing lethal, so they would only be out of commission for a while. Mirio had a big wound in his right arm, and Nijire had both of her ulnas cracked along with some bruises all over her body. But Izuku was the worst of them all. While most of the other students were healed instantly by Recovery Girl, Izuku's body was in much worse condition. Both of his arms were completely broken and his forearm skin had multiple rips. Most of his body bones were either cracked or shattered, and he used so much stamina he blacked out on his feet. If All Might wasn't there to take him to receive medical care immediately, our green hero wannabe wouldn't have survived to tell the tale. Right now, the introvert is lying unconscious in one of the beds of the nurse's office, along with Tamaki and Izawa, while the youthful heroine organized some documents in her desk. Most of the smaller wounds were already treated, but since he did not have the stamina to receive a kiss, his bones were still partially destroyed and his arms were completely patched. But breaking the silence in the room, someone knocked on the door. "Come in," Recovery Girl announced while turning to see who wanted to enter her office. As the door slowly opened, Mirio, Nijire, Ochako and Tenya came in, allowing them to see the state the patients were in. "We've come to see them," explained Mirio as he moved closer to his childhood friend. "How are they?" Ochako asked. "Tamaki and Izawa are doing well. I expect them to wake up by the afternoon. But the green-haired over here is a totally different situation," Chio explained, only increasing the students' worries. "I have no idea when he might come back." "But will he okay once he does wake up?" Tenya asked, still unsure if his friend was fine or not. "He won't be able to move his arms normally for a week, but, aside from some scars, he'll look brand new once I'm finished," Chio affirmed, finally putting all teenagers in the room at ease. But, from the corner of her eye, the elderly saw Nijire slowly approach the unconscious teenager and softly grab his patched hand. "And what about you, little missy? I told you to go back home and rest," she exclaimed, being a little mad at the brunette. "I'm sorry, is just..." Nijire paused, trying to find the word to describe her motives. "He saved my life at the invasion and almost died because of it. I needed to see if he was all right." Silence filled the room for a moment. No one knew why, but since the USJ attack, Nijire had become attached to the green-haired, asking everyone if they knew about the introvert's condition, if those wounds were of normal occurrence, and so much more. Most thought that it was because he saved her, but Mirio, being the goofy man that he was, could only see one plausible excuse. "She totally has a crush on him," Mirio thought as he noticed at how close his classmate was to the boy in question. This is your typical comic book romance. Hero saves the girl, girl falls for the hero and girl get together and live happily ever after. And the cartoon-like teenager couldn't have enough of it. Being part of the top students and one of the prettiest girls in the entire school, Nijire had a lot of admirers and boy crushing on her, but since she never even considered trying to find partner, the girl was single since before he met her, so seeing his friend wanting to be this close to Izuku was something that Mirio never wanted to see the end of. And while the first years could only stare at her with confusion, Miro looked at the brunette with the goofiest smile he could ever muster. Rapidly moving closer to his classmate, Mirio grabbed Nijire's hand and dragged her toward the door, pulling her away from the unconscious introvert. Now Nijire, I know you want to stay close to your knight in shiny armor, but we need to let the patients rest." Mirio mocked as he forced the brunette out of the room. What's that supposed to mean?" Nijire yelled with blushing cheeks, embarrassed with the peerless teenager assumption. "No yelling in the nurse's office," Tenya corrected, although he didn't notice that he was also yelling. "Mirio is right, my patients need to rest, so, please, leave my office," Recovery Girl exclaimed as she began pushing the rest of the teenagers out of the room. "I still wanted to," Ochako tried to say as the elderly kept pushing them. "Whatever you want to say, it can be said later. Have a good evening," Recovery Girl interrupted as she grabbed the door handle. And with a loud bang, the door was slammed shut, allowing silence to fill the room and the elderly to take a deep breath while massaging her temples before grabbing some document files and look at the window. "You can come back in now, they're gone," Chio said as a muscular figure peeked on the window. "Are you sure they are not coming back?" All Might asked, still not sure if it was okay to reveal himself. "I locked the door. No one is getting inside unless I let them." "If that's the case," the number one hero said as he jumped back inside the room and turning back to his skeletal form. The truth is that, before the students arrived, All Might and Recovery Girl were talking about the whole situation of what happened at the USJ and Izuku's medical condition. But since the one-for-all wielder didn't want to raise any suspicions, he quickly activated his quirk and hid himself behind the window. "I know what they just went through, but teenagers these days worry way too much," Chio complained while moving closer to the skeletal. "Let it slip this time, they're just worried about their friends." All Might defended, although the teenagers did worry too much. "Anyway, here are the files of that Nomu thing we captured," the elderly informed, handing the files to the number one hero. While flipping through the pages of the document, All Might's eyes widened as he began to understand the gravity of the situation. "This is just insane. Are you sure these flies are correct?" he asked, not believing in what his eyes were showing him. "I checked it 3 times, Tashinori. Everything that is written in those papers are absolutely true." "Then that thing indeed had more than one quirk," he concluded while chills ran down his spine. "And that's not the end of it," Recovery Girl started. "With this information and the students' confirmations, it is proven that that monster was created to defeat you. Just look at the quirk it has. They were specifically chosen to fight someone like you. Shock absorption and hyper-regeneration. It amazes me how young Izuku was able to defeat it," All Might exclaimed, looking at his unconscious successor. "That's why I called you here. Come here," Chio ordered as she pointed at the computer over her desk. Once the pros were in front of the monitor, with a few clicks, the elderly showed the skeletal man even more information about the bioengineered weapon, which only made his worries increase. "That thing was capable of resisting multiple of your max power punches, maybe even with you at prime strength. To believe that the green-haired over here defeated it with one punch means that he used way over 100% of one for all," she explained as images of Izuku's arms appeared in the screen. "When I treated him, his bones were almost pulverized, but after seeing what the Nomu can endure, his arms should have been ripped out of his body, but somehow, there he is, with his arms still connected to his body. I have no idea what happened for him to survive. If only I had arrived sooner, all this mess could have been avoided." All Might mourned, disappointed with himself. "Izuku will recover, so you can calm down a bit. What you should be worried about is that Nomu. It is impossible for that thing to be created naturally, so whatever made is probably making more. This may be the beginning of the biggest villain threat in history," Recovery Girl warned as she pulled a copy of the file from one of the desk's drawers and handed them to the number one hero. "Use this copies to begin investigating. They may be able to give you some hints." "Thank you, it is appreciated," he said while bowing to the elder. "But if you excuse me, I still have some errands to finish, so I'll be heading back to my office," the skeletal man explained as he changed forms and opened the door. "If you say so. Take care," Chio said, waving to the departing hero. Once out of the nurse's office and alone in the hallway, All Might grit his teeth and clenched his fist, kneading the papers in the process. "So you're still out there?" "All for one." After leaving the youthful heroine's office, the teenagers headed to the dining hall where, in one of the many tables of the room, continued to discuss about the events of the USJ. "Do you think that they'll be fine?" Ochako asked, still not sure if her friends would be able to recover. "You heard her, they'll be back soon, we just got to be patient," Tenya affirmed, consoling his classmate. "But you saw how bad they were, is it really going to be okay?" Ochako asked once again. It was almost as if she didn't want to believe. "Recovery Girl is taking care of them, there's nothing to be worried about," Mirio added, also trying to help the fresh man calm down. "But when I come to think of it, Izuku might not come back untouched," Tenya said, not measuring the consequences of his words. "Dude, Now is not the time. Mirio exclaimed, trying to alert the boy with glassed of girl's situation. But he's right. The brunette affirmed with her head lowered, catching everyone off guard. We all saw what he did. If he really hurts himself when overusing his quirk, then he may suffer something irreversible. Nijire, Ochako muttered, concerned with her friend's feelings. But we can't let that bring us down, we have to stay strong and hope for the better. She beamed, wearing a big smile to prove her point. Now that's the spirit. Mirio yelled while getting up from his chair and shaking his arms in his usual frantic way. How about we get some ice cream to keep our moods up? Tea, that seems like a good idea. Tenya answered, surprised with the third year's reaction. After a couple of hours, just like Recovery Girl predicted, Tamaki and Aizawa woke up and were allowed to go back to their homes to continue resting in a more comfortable environment. The same can't be said about Izuku. Due to the state of his bones, Izuku wasn't allowed to move, therefore he couldn't leave the school until he was completely healed. For 3 entire days the green-haired remained unconscious, receiving visits from his mother, his classmates and, surprisingly, Nijire. Every day she spent at least an hour in the nurse's office to see if her savior was recovering well. These visits led to 2 things: Mirio's suspicion of her crush to increase and an unexpected encounter. In a morning like all others, Nijire walked towards Recovery Girl's office to check in the introvert, but as she grabbed the handle to open the door, she heard a sob coming from inside the room. Who may be in here? She wondered. Slowly opening the door, Nijire saw a short chubby woman sitting beside Izuku's bed crying and, just like the introvert, had green eyes and hair. Is she his mother? Nijire asked herself. She did look a lot like him, the only differences being that her hair was smooth instead of curly and her eyes' irises were a little bit lighter, but before the brunette could continue to wonder, the crying woman turned her around as she noticed she wasn't alone in the room anymore. Who are you? She asked between sobs. Teenager, the brunette answered, nervous with the situation she was now in. Inko, Izuku's mother. The mother introduced herself while wiping the tears off her eyes. Sorry if I'm being rude, but what are you doing here? Oh boy. I came here to check on him. The girl answered while moving closer to the unconscious teen. But why? Are you his friend? Inko questioned, suspicious of why the brunette had come to visit. I can't say for sure. Nijire said, only increasing the mother's doubts. It's just that he saved me at the invasion, so I felt like it was my obligation to look out for him. There was a moment of silence between the two. On one side, there was Nijire, who was unsure if should even be there at the moment, and on the other was Inko, trying to comprehend why this beautiful girl was being so compassionate with her son. Until something clicked in the mother's mind. I'm sorry, but what was your name again? Inko asked, trying to put the pieces together. It's Nijire. The brunette answered hesitantly. Nijire, Nijire, Nijire. Inko repeated over and over again, not noticing that she made the brunette feel uncomfortable. What is she doing? The girl wondered. Nijire. Hado, right? The mother asked, catching the teen off guard. How do you know? She asked, afraid of what the woman knew about her. So it is you. Inko celebrated while standing up. I knew I had seen you somewhere else. It sure has been a while since we last met. Nijire took a step back at the chubby woman's reaction. How does she know me? She asked herself. She could hardly recognize this woman, and now she was implying that they had met each other. This couldn't get any weirder. I'm sorry, but I think you're mistaking me with another person. Nijire implied, still not sure of the woman's intentions. I'm not Sweetie. Don't you remember me? Inko wondered. You were just a child and you barely talked to me, so it makes sense that you wouldn't remember me right off the bat. I don't want to be rude, but what are you talking about? Nijire asked one more time. I know who you are. Izuku introduced you to me when both of you were kids, she explained, making the brunette freeze in place. I've met Izuku before? She asked herself, becoming even more confused. Here, I still have your parents' numbers. Inko affirmed while pulling her cell phone out of her skirt pocket and showing the contact to the teenager. I talk with them once in a while, but they never told me that you were back in town. After reading the numbers in the phone screen, Nijire confirmed that, indeed, those were her parents' numbers and everything the woman was saying was true. I remember seeing you two play together in the park. It kinda makes me feel sad that you had to go. Izuku really missed you. Inko told her while putting the device back in the pocket. He'll be so happy to know that you're back. But I don't remember anything that happened. What am I supposed to say to him? The brunette asked herself, not noticing that she had yelled her thoughts. I think I'd be nice if... Inko attempted to say, but a creak coming from behind stopped her. As the girls turned around, they were surprised to that Izuku had begun to move once again, softly shaking his head as his consciousness returned. Once the introvert's eyes opened, his mind was completely filled with questions. Nijire? What happening? He asked with difficulty since his body remained weak. The mother stuttered, falling in her knees and beginning to cry on the teen's shoulder, who grunted in pain. Stop, Mom. It hurts, the green-haired said, but it was for naught as his mother continued to let the tears roll. And while the family enjoyed their so-awaited reunion, Nijire just watched them in the corner with a soft smile in her face. They look really happy, she thought while slowly moving closer to the door. Whatever I want to say, I can say it later. Now outside the nurse's office and walking through the hallway, Nijire began to think about her conversation with Inko and stopped, looking at the horizon through one of the many open windows. If we really met each other, how can I not remember a single thing? The brunette muttered to herself while the wind blew through her hair. Well, I guess this is something I'll have to figure out later. And with another soft smile in her face, Nijire resumed her walk back home. After coming back to reality and being treated by Recovery Girl, Izuku was allowed to go back home. He wasn't completely healed yet since he was advised to not put too much pressure on his arms, but the risk of a wound reopening was so small that there was no reason to keep him hospitalized. And finally, once the break the school provided was over, all classes were resumed. The day was normal for the most part for Class 1A. The usual classes, a moderate break but no hero basics. They suspected that since they were forced to deal with a true villain invasion, a small rest from all the fighting and hero duties would be nice, so it went unnoticed. But what happened next was a different situation. As Izuku, Ochako and Tenya made their way to the train station like they always did, a familiar voice was heard calling them. Turning around, the first years saw Tamaki and Nijire approaching, being almost breathless due to the run they were forced to do in order to catch up. Please wait up, we want to talk with you. Tamaki said timidly since they were around most of the school's students. What is it? Izuku asked, surprised how tired the third years seemed to be. We were wondering if... Why not? Nijire attempted to say, but her nervousness would not allow her to speak normally. What my friends are trying to say. Another familiar voice said, catching everyone off guard. Looking down, the group of teenagers spotted Mirio, or his head at least, peeking through the floor and staring at the green-haired with his usual goofy smile. Would you like to go out with us, Izuku? Oh boy. That sentence alone was enough to spill the first year's drinks, if they were drinking, that is. Me? The green-haired asked, completely surprised with the cartoony teenager's proposal. If you hadn't appeared to save us, we wouldn't be here in the first place, and, since you got really injured because of us, we thought that treating you around would be a nice way to thank you. Nijire managed to explain since Mirio had already done the hard part. I see. But where would we go then? Izuku asked as the situation became clear. There will be a small festival happening in the center of the town tomorrow. Would you like to come? The chicken asked. Izuku paused for a moment. He really didn't have anything special to do other than training, and their intentions were noble. He couldn't let them hanging. All right then, it is settled, the green-haired confirmed as a small smile crept into his face. It's a date. Mirio yelled, catching not only the attention of the group, but of every student around them, making everyone blush of embarrassment. Mirio, please calm down, Tamaki demanded, while trying to hide himself behind Nijire's blue hair. My bad, the peerless teen apologized while slowly sinking in the floor. Meet us in at the center around 2 o'clock. But if you excuse me, I need to put my clothes back. And with that, Mirio disappeared. Is he always like this? Ochako asked, still blushing put of the embarrassment the cartoony teenager made them go through. You get used to it after a while? Tamaki shrugged as he began turning around and walking back to the school. We'll be waiting, Nijire said happily, following her friend's lead. And with all of that said and done, only one thing was certain. Tomorrow would be crazy. This day would be special. All classes had already ended and the students had been released. It was almost 2 o'clock, the time Izuku was told to meet the with Big Three at the city center. He couldn't be more nervous. As he finished dressing himself, the green-haired stood in front of his mirror to see how he looked. And it wasn't so bad. Izuku was wearing a black t-shirt with a green jacket on top, black jeans and his usual red boots. It was good enough. With his wallet and keys in hand, Izuku headed to the door to meet with the third years, but his mother, who was watching TV in the living room, became curious. Where you're going all dressed up? Inko asked innocently. I forgot to tell her, he remembered. I'm just going to meet up with some friends, that's all. Izuku explained, although he did not mention who these friends were. Friends? My baby has friends, she cried. Izuku had been alone for so long that just hearing those words were enough to make her tear up, and being the affectionate mother that she was, Inko got closer to her son, pulled him into a tight hug. Why, he groaned so much, she said between sobs. Although her tears were staining his shirt, Izuku understood how his mother was feeling and decided to give this moment to her, returning the hug and kindly massaging her back. They stayed like that for a couple of seconds until Inko, now calm, pulled away and opened the door for her son. You better get going. You don't want to let them waiting, do you? With a soft smile in his face, Izuku kissed his mother's forehead and walked through the door, leaving the chubby woman on her own. I wonder if he is going to meet her. After a short train ride, Izuku arrived at the center and began looking around, trying to find the group of third years that he was supposed to meet with, and while searching he noticed that, indeed, there would be a festival happening today. All the streets were decorated with several stalls that sold different types of products, bands of all colors connecting one pole to another, soft music being played on the background and hundreds of people enjoying everything that was offered to them. It was really nice to see everyone enjoying themselves. It took a while, but after some time walking around, Izuku found the Big Three. They were standing next to the fountain at the center of the festival and seemed to be chatting, and while observing them, the introvert noticed that they had dressed up as much as he had. As he approached the group, the cartonic teenager noticed his presence and waved at him, drawing the attention of the other members of the group. Hello there, Izuku, how's it going? Mirio greeted as the green-haired got closer. He was wearing a dark red button-up sheet, gray jeans and a pair of brown boots. Took you long enough, mocked Tamaki. He was wearing loose-fitting white shirt with a black jacket over it, dark blue jeans and black shoes. We've been waiting for almost 15 minutes. Don't be so rude. We are here to thank him, not to make him feel bad. Nijire corrected while giving a small slap in Tamaki's head. But if you don't mind me asking, how do I look? I bought this dress recently, but I'm still not sure if it was a good idea, she asked while leaning closer to the one-for-all wielder. As Izuku observed the girl in front of him, the only thing he was able to do was blush uncontrollably. The brunette was wearing a short-sleeved blue dress with a long white stripe around the skirt, dark blue high heels and a silver collar with a heart pendant. She looks so cute, the green-haired though, while trying to hide the redness on his cheeks. Why you look nice, he stuttered, looking everywhere except in her sky-blue eyes. You really think so? She asked again, receiving a nod from the green-haired which made a huge smile appear in her face. While the two discussed whether or not the girl looked pretty, Mirio watched them with a giant sheet eating, trying his best not to laugh at Izuku's reaction. They look so cute together it almost gives me cavities, the cartonic teenager though. Today is my chance. I'll make these two get together no matter what, he exclaimed in his mind before moving closer to the brunette and placing his hand on Nijire's shoulder, getting her attention. I know you're still unsure if your new dress looks good or not, but let's not make Izuku become a new type of tomato. Mirio joked while dragging the girl away from the freshman. But what are we going to do today? Izuku asked, curious about what the Big Three had planned for him. We're in a festival, we can go to whatever event they're hosting. Tamaki explained. They have all types of food in those stalls, some small attractions. It is up to you on what we're going to do first. And of course, we'll pay for everything. Mirio added, shaking his arms frantically like always. What? I can't make you pay for everything, it's not right. Izuku said, finally understanding the trio's plan. No need to work up about it, everything around here is very cheap. This pendant I'm wearing, for example, I bought it a couple of minutes ago and was about 250 yen, and even if they weren't, we all agreed with sharing the bills beforehand. Nijire explained, surprising the green-haired. Is it really that cheap? Everything around here is. Mirio boomed, scaring the couple. Now let's stop wasting time and begin having fun, he shouted while pulling his friends inside the crowd. But what are we going to do? Izuku stuttered, startled with the cartonic teenager attitude. Again, it is up to you where we're going first, so please, make the honors, the blonde said, still pulling everyone around. Then how about we go there first? I think it would be nice start. Izuku suggested while pointing to an area full of carnival games. Following Izuku's indication, the cartonic turned around and dragged everyone to the mentioned area while everyone around them just stared at the group. Seeing a youngster like Mirio just casually dragging 3 other teenagers around and making a lot of noise in the process isn't something that you're used to see every day, so being the center of attention was one of the many things Mirio was making his friends go through, and they were not liking it. Tamaki and Izuku kept covering their faces with their free arms, trying to move all attention to someone else while Nijire blushed and smiled nervously. But you must be thinking, why didn't they simply let go and walked on their own? But Mirio would not let go and his grip was too strong. Their only option was to endure the embarrassment. He would pay for this later. Now in the middle of playground, Mirio released their hands, giving them room to breathe and look at their surroundings. There were all kind of attractions and stalls around them, going from small duck pounds to a freaking shooting galleries and whack-a-moles, but one of them got the introvert's attention. So, which one you want to go first? The blonde asked innocently. That one. Izuku said while pointing at the small red tower with a golden bell at the top. A high striker. It has been a while since the last time any of them had seen one of these. The only thing Izuku could remember about this attraction that when he was kid he tried lifting the mallet to play the game and was barely able to move it. He also remember his mother giggling a lot. You want to know how strong you are? This one is sturdier than normal to prevent problems with quirks, so let's see if you're up for the challenge, the attraction owner said, trying to convince them to spend their money on his booth. Izuku really wanted to play. He wanted to know how much he had grown since his training with All Might. As he was about to pull out his wallet, Tamaki grabbed his wrist and handed his own money to the booth owner. We said that it is on our treat, the senior said as he released the green-haired. Each of you got one attempt, good luck, the man informed as the machine was turned on. Moving closer to the attraction, Izuku grabbed the mallet and lifted it and, for his surprise, he did it with ease. He didn't know if the hair itself was light or he was strong enough to lift it so easily, but, with the mallet now in hand, the green-haired stared at the tower, thinking of what would happen when he hit the base. What are you waiting for? Go for it. Nijire motivated, curious of how well the freshman would go. After taking a deep breath, Izuku closed his eyes and hit the lever with all he had, creating a loud noise and sending the chaser high up. What happened next surprised everyone. Not only did the chaser hit the bell extremely quick, proving that Izuku had more strength than the machine could measure, but the cable of the mallet broke upon impact, separating the head from the rest of the tool's body. The big 3, the stall owner and people around them just look in awe at the sheer strength that green-haired demonstrated. When did he become so strong? The big 3 thought in unison. Slowly opening his eyes, Izuku was surprised to see that the hammer he was holding was broken, and once he turned around, he grew even more confused as everyone stared at him. What happened? The one for all wielder asked with nervousness in his voice. You reached maximum score, said Nijire. Broke the hammer with your hit, continued Tamaki. And won a prize, finished the booth owner, yelling in Izuku's ear while he shoved a 13 plushie at the teenager. But what about your hammer? the green-haired asked. I was already planning on replacing it and I have another one anyway, so enjoy your new toy, the man said as he pulled another mallet from below the booth's counter and giving it to Tamaki. How about you be the next one? I want to see how everyone else will go. With the chicken becoming the new center of attention, a furious blush covered his cheeks, his legs started to shake and he wasn't able to a word leave his tongue. Understanding the situation his friend got himself in, Mirio quickly acted. Come on man, I know you can do it, he motivated, shaking his arms frantically. Why yeah, you can do it, said Izuku, catching the dark-haired off guard. With all this motivation, Tamaki copied Izuku. He closed his eyes and hit the lever, releasing a loud noise as well but differently from the green-haired. The chaser only went a bit past the half of the meter. But before he even reacted to his result, Mirio was already by his side. That was amazing Tamaki, I knew you had it in why, the cardoonic teenager said while wildly shaking his friend and yanked the hammer from his hands and moved closer to the machine. My turn now. With a quick swing the mallet hit the lever, sending the chaser high but it wasn't enough to make it hit the bell. In other terms, if this toy was a test, he would have scored a 9 out of, so close. Mirio muttered hoping that, somehow, the chaser would go just a little bit higher. My turn. My turn. I want a 13 plushie too. Nijire beamed, excited with what her prize was. As Mirio gave her the hammer, she quickly struck the lever but, for her displeasure, the chaser barely moved, stopping just below the first quarter of the meter. The only thing she heard after her attempt were soft giggles coming from behind her. Don't laugh at me like this, she pouted with an embarrassed blush on her cheeks. She only made it worse. With how funny it was to see the Blueonette embarrassed like that, both seniors were no longer able to hold back their laughs and bursted into giggling messes, making the girl blush even harder. I just don't make physical training as much as you do. Nijire whispered softly, playing with a piece of her sky blue hair to try to calm herself down. But while Mirio and Tamaki were almost dying of laughter, Izuku could only look at her with pity. It was funny to watch. Yes, it was, but everything she said was true. Women normally have less muscle mass than men and, because of her quirk, she probably never had a reason to do any intensive training like they had. Although he knew they were just messing around, and being the cinnamon roll that he is, Izuku had to act. Why, you can have the plush if you want. He offered with an embarrassed blush on his cheeks. This caught everyone off guard, including the booth owner, and while Izuku's face became redder than a tomato due to the stares, Nijire tried to understand what was going on. Is he being kind to me because we met before? She wondered while staring at the green-haired with shiny eyes, but she had to answer. I can't take it, you won it fair and square, she exclaimed, shaking her arms in front of her face, trying to hide the redness of her cheeks. Don't worry about it. You really wanted one so I don't mind giving it to you and I wasn't going to do anything with it anyways. It is better if you have it, he explained, pushing the toy even closer to her. Silence filled the air for a moment. She really didn't want to take it from him like this, but he was offering with so much kindness that it would actually look bad if she declined. Taking a deep breath, the blueberry looked at Izuku in the eyes and grabbed the plushie, squeezing it tightly in her chest. Thank you very much, Izuku, she said with a soft voice. The green-haired was happy that she had accepted the gift, but at the same time, she's so cute, he yelled in his mind as his blush became even bigger than before. Why, you're welcome, he stuttered, looking down to avoid staring at her beautiful sky blue eyes. I won't need to do anything, they're already falling for each other. Mirio thought as he watched the couple interact they had to move on with their day. Wrapping his arms around the Izuku's and Nijire's necks, he pulled them closer to him, ending the moment they were sharing. I know you like each other, but let's not waste any more time, okay? He teased, making the pair blush at the same time. I's not like that, they yelled in unison while pulling away from the cardoonic teenager. See, could you guys stop yelling? It's drawing more attention towards us. Tamanho begged as he hid behind the high striker. You're right. Let's go somewhere else, said Mirio as he, once again, grabbed everyone's wrists and began dragging them around. But this time it was quick. He stopped in front of shooting gallery with fake rifles and multiple moving targets. Come on Izuku, I think you're going to like this one. Mirio exclaimed as he played the booth owner for one round. It's very simple. The owner started. I'm gonna start the timer and you have to shoot down as many targets as possible. Take enough down and you earn a prize. Good luck, he said while placing a fake rifle in the Green United's hands. And what do I get if I win? Suzuki asked. The owner smirked. If you win, you'll get limited edition All Might figure, the man said as he pulled the action figure from behind the counter. But you only have one chance to get it. As Izuku looked at the mentioned prize, his eyes widened in surprise. This was indeed a limited edition figure, one that he had been searching for years. This became personal. Turn it on, Izuku shouted as he entered in stance and prepared himself to shoot. As the timer started and the targets began moving, Izuku attempted to shoot them but, sadly, he was as precise as he thought he was. Out of the 20 target he needed, he got 3. Oh boy was he sad about it. Sorry kid, better luck next time, the owner mocked with a sly grin in his face. Izuku felt defeated, so much that he fell onto his knees and let his forehead touch the ground. He wanted the figure so badly, but as his last attempt had shown, accuracy wasn't his forte. But while he mourned about his loss, Nijire looked at the plush and the boy who gave it to her. With determination in her eyes, the Bluinette pulled some money and slammed it at the counter. Give me a round, she ordered as the owner gave her the fake gun, once again, with a sly grin in his face. Good luck little missy, he mocked. What happened next definitely shut him up for good. One by one, Nijire shot down the targets that appeared at the gallery, all of them hitting dead in the center. As the 20th target was shot down, a small burst of confetti was released from the booth as everyone's jaws simply dropped. Out of all targets that appeared in the gallery, Nijire hit 20 out of 20. She was amazing. Confidently placing the rifle at the counter, the Bluinette smirked and extended a hand towards the man. My prize please, she said vocally as the man followed her request and placed the figure on her hand. Quickly crouching behind Izuku, Nijire tapped the boy's shoulder and as he turned around, the first thing he saw was the action figure right up in his face. Now we're even. Nijire beamed while placing the figure in the green-haired's hand. But how? Izuku asked, unsure of how she managed to obtain the prize. My quirk might not require physical training, but I definitely need to know how to shoot, she explained as the dots in his mind connected. Come on, there's still a lot of things that we can do, she said while pulling the All Might fanboy out of the ground. For a couple of hours they roamed around, playing the various games the festival was hosting and even watching a magic show at one point, although Izuku could be sworn that he saw the magician use some type of teleportation quirk in one of his tricks, but what we should be paying attention was Mirio. For the entire afternoon he had been trying to find opening to make Izuku and Nijire get closer to one another, but not only did Tamaki get in his way multiple times, but almost no attractions could be used to make his plans easier to execute and he was beginning to run out of time. Soon enough the sun would begin to set, meaning that they would have to go back to their respective homes, meaning that he would have lost one of his best opportunities to get them together. I swear, if I don't make them leave this festival as a couple I'll drop from hero studies. Mirio exclaimed in his mind, although, obviously, he would not do what he thought. But before he could think of anything to push the pair closer to one another, a weird noise interrupted his thoughts. As the trio turned around, they saw a grunting Tamaki, with his hands on his belly and a grumpy stomach. I'm sorry but I need food, he exclaimed as his friends simply sighed. Then let's find some tasty treat for Sun Eater over here. Mirio joked as they group-headed together to an area full of food stalls. After minutes of discussion, they settled with a classic portions of takoyaki for each of them, walking around the festival while eating their delicious snack. With Mirio walking along with Nijire and Izuku with Tamaki, a mean idea appeared in the chicken's mind. Hey, Izuku, wanna see something funny? He asked with a small smile on his stuffed face. Sure, the green-haired responded. In an instant, Tamaki's fingers became big octopus tentacles and quietly moved over the ground and tapped on Mirio's right shoulder, drawing his attention and making him turn around, interrupting his conversation with the Bluinette, who was equally confused. Who's there? the cardoonic teen asked but was interrupted as he felt another tap on his other shoulder. What is it, Nijire? He asked. What? She returned, making the situation even more confusing. Meanwhile, the pair tried to understand what was happening. Izuku and Tamaki giggled uncontrollably on the background, trying their best to stop the sounds from escaping their mouths and, in one of the multiple spasms their laughter were causing, the dark-haired accidentally made one of his extended tentacle fingers hit one of Mirio's legs, making him trip and fall onto his portion of takoyaki, staining his shirt. Immediately regretting their decision, the pair of introverts rushed to aid the blonde, who's slowly getting in his knees. I'm sorry, it was supposed to be just a joke? Tamaki apologized while helping his friend stand up. It's fine, Tamaki. I know it was on purpose. Mirio responded, but then, something in his mind clicked. Wait, this is perfect. I can use this to push Tamaki away. Izuku and Nijire can be alone. I'm such a genius. The cardoonic teen strategized as his Cupid mode activated. Acting before the dark-haired could react, Mirio grabbed him by the wrist, pulling him away from the pair and making everyone confused. I know it was an accident, but you're going to help me clean my shirt. Mirio exclaimed while pulling his childhood friend towards the man's bathroom. Why me? The chicken yelled before being locked in the bathroom with the peerless hero, finally leaving Izuku and Nijire all by themselves. Silence filled the air as no one knew how to break the ice between them, but, after taking a deep breath, Nijire made her move. So, that was weird, wasn't it? She asked even if the answer was obvious. Why yeah, really weird. Izuku stuttered as the idea that he was alone with a girl crossed his mind. Are you alright? You're a bit red. The brunette asked, wondering if her friend had a fever. I'm fine, don't worry about me. Izuku said, shaking his arms frantically to hide his blush. Once again, silence filled the air. After a couple of seconds waiting for the two to pop out of the bathroom, it was Izuku's turn to try to break the ice. It looks like it is going to take a while, let's find a place to sit, he suggested and received a nod in return. So, without wasting any more time, they began looking for a bench. So, do you mind if make some questions? Nijire asked bluntly. About the USJ thing? She answered, creating tension between the two. Oh, he hesitated. Izuku himself wasn't sure of what had happened at the invasion, but he also didn't know what she was going to ask. It could be something completely harmless. But still, he wanted to do it slowly. Let's find bench first, it will be easier, he suggested, still lost in deep thoughts. A bench like this one? Nijire joked as she brought Izuku back to reality, making he realize that she was already sitting in the mentioned bench. It was going to happen now. Once seated on the bench, the green-haired took a deep breath and looked at the brunette. All right, ask me anything. After taking a second to see what question she would ask first, Nijire turned to the introvert and spoke. What exactly is your quirk? Izuku hesitated. This was her first question and he was already unsure of what to say. Obviously he wouldn't tell her about One for All, but he had to say something. It's just another strength-enhancing quirk. The difference is that mine is a lot stronger than other ones, he explained while activating 5% through his arm, small green sparks. Is there any side effects? The brunette asked, amazed with how pretty the sparks were. If I use more power than my body can handle, my muscles and bones would be destroyed. He answered while turning off his quirk. Like what happened in the U.S.J. Why the hell did he say that? Why? She paused and looked to the floor. All the happiness that was between them disappeared and was replaced by tension with just those few words. Silence filled the air and their difficulty to restart the conversation dominated. Those few moments where Izuku declined death itself and defeated that black beast held way too many feelings in the teenagers' hearts. Sorrow, despair, bitterness. But also happiness, hope and determination. This mess of feelings were keeping the pair from muttering any word. But using all she had, Nijire spoke. What was that last attack anyway? She asked, trying to stop the emotions from taking over. I don't know, it just happened. Izuku answered, remembering the feeling of the energy overflow. But what was driving you? That question caught the introvert off guard. What was driving me? Yeah. I mean, that attack was bigger than anything you be ever done, right? She asked again and received a nod as a response. And if you really hurt yourself when you overuse your quirk, what kept you moving forward through all that pain? The green-haired paused. This was something that he had not asked himself yet. What made him keep going when all hope seemed to be lost? While searching for the answer, only one thing appeared in his mind. While looking at the golden sky above his head, Izuku let his mouth move on his own. It was a girl I met a long time ago. She changed my life. She gave me hope. She gave me reason to continue chasing my dreams. Wow, she must be really sweet then, said the brunette, amazed by how kind this girl seemed to be. How did you two meet? It wasn't the best, but I would never change it. He started. She was exploring the woods next to my home when she fell into a ditch and sprained her ankle. She had been stuck there for a couple of minutes before I heard one of her cries and helped her get back to her family. We even made a promise. We would both grow up and learn how to be heroes, so one day, we'd find one another and work together and be as great as our idols. He took a small pause as the memories of that day filled his heart with joy. I can't remember how much of her appearance. The only thing I can remember is her beautiful blue hair, kinda like yours, he finished while turning around to look at the girl beside him. He just said to her something that he never told someone, and it felt good. He never spoke about it with anyone because it didn't feel necessary, but now that he opened up, his heart was feeling at ease. But as his eyes met with hers, every feeling other than surprise completely vanished. Nijire was crying, her smile had disappeared, her beautiful eyes now wobbly and her cheeks were red, but, surprisingly, she didn't have any expression. She just stared at the green-haired while the tears rolled down her cheeks. "Are you? I remember you," was all she said.